Hello, and this is Spotlight, recorded live here on Grapple Patreon. I'm Benno.
And I'm Gareth.
And we're on the same time zone tonight, Gareth. Didn't stop us from being 7 minutes late. I apologise to the chat there for sorting a few things in the background, mate. But I can basically see you through the window here. I was like that on the plane back. I'll come back to see how close I was getting to Liverpool, mate. We're me and neighbours again, and of course we're on the same time zone, so it's a later start as well. Matty's going to hate that when we get him back. But yeah, lovely to hear, mate.
Yeah, great to be on the same time zone and great to be on the same prices as well. How are you getting on with those meal deals, mate?
I'm dying. It's killing me inside. Like I joked, it was going to be bad. Like there's been several instances of this since I've gotten back. The first of which was literally, as you know, the second I stepped off the plane and at Dublin Airport. I know it's not representative of normal prices, but literally the very first thing I saw, I think it was a WH Smith meal deal, €9 it cost, and I was literally ready to get back on the plane and drive myself back to Asia. At that point, it was just like, fuck, what am I in for here? Like that was bad. I had an instance today. I'm out of practice. Went to the local corner shop by Steph's Nan's here in Belfast where we are tonight, and 50 pence for a plastic bag. Like again, I'm going to be comparing everything to in Asia, but in Asia they'll give you a plastic bag for your plastic bag, mate. They don't give any fucks. You buy a little fucking bottle of water and you get a plastic bag. You buy a cup of coffee, they put it in a plastic bag. Like you buy a water actually, and they attach like this. It's like this weird like plastic hook thing to the top of like your bottle, so you can kind of carry it around with ease, even if it's only like a 500ml bottle. You're going to be done with soon, but not so much over here. I've already returned to Greg's. Went back to Greg's yesterday. Obviously, the first proper meal I had since I've been on these fair shows. Oh no, sadly not. When I'm back in the Liverpool territory, sales will be on the list. But even that, mate, I got a festive bake with a coffee or something like £3.90. Luckily, I had me Monzo deal to get myself a little cheeky sausage roll with it to justify it. But mate, I was living for £3 a day, and here I am now. I don't know what you've done to the place since I've been gone, or whether it was always like this. But I'm devastated by it.
Rip off Britain, mate, including them plastic bags. The hidden tax there is the
cash in, isn't it?
It's the small island of Great Britain, saving the planet there. 150p carrier bag at a time. Unreal. While Asia gives you 3. But 50p, that's like a day's food for you, isn't it?
Honestly, I was saying that to Steph. I could have got an extra bag of noodles or something. Or, like, again, where I was, a full coffee, a full meal, pretty much, while I was out there. But that's the only stuff that I've actually struggled to get back in the running with, to be honest. I've been shocked at how normal it's all felt. Like, I've just been, I haven't worn a pair of jeans, mate, in about 9 months. So not wearing shorts was a slight change, but that kind of felt natural, wrapping up. It's been cold, but not that cold. I've been okay. Got a bit of a sore throat, I think it's probably just from not ingesting pollution anymore from being in Hanoi. The clean air is probably the biggest negative here for my body. My body doesn't know to handle it at this point. And I'd say the time zone is off, but it's just actually, it's reversed me now. And now I'm falling asleep about midnight or so, which is probably what a normal time a normal human should be in bed by. So that's kind of work. So we'll see. Maybe it'll be a full reset once I'm back out there. But yeah, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to look forward to seeing you. Obviously, I'll be back over in Liverpool in a little over a week, actually, at this point as well. See some family and such like that. Spend a bit of quality time with Steffi in Belfast for a few weeks. And yeah, you can't stop me, mate. I will be back in town for the rest of the year. I miss you all, but I don't necessarily miss the place. I think that's probably fair to say.
Well, I mean, I haven't been on Instagram today, but I'm hoping that you've got like a story on there or something like that that's just shots of you with like an overpriced Greg's coffee looking out over that Belfast high street or something like that, as opposed to all these like amazing sites there where there's a beach in the background or there's some sort of like exotic building or something like that. Like now there's just like some Belfast butchers or something like that in the background of your Greg's coffee.
It's good butchers, to be fair, as well. It's not too bad out here. I don't know what the Liverpool equivalent's going to be. Maybe I'll go get myself a Scouse or something like that, or probably just visit all the Gregs in town or something when I see yous. But yeah, planning on having a bit of an ease up, aren't we? Apart from Matty, who's on dry January, isn't he? Which just to me, he says that. I think that's just the way of buying around, isn't it, mate? I think by the end of the night we'll realise we've bought him 6 beers, and how did that happen? It's coming, but yeah, very much looking forward to that. But yeah, what about you? What's going on your end? New Year's coming up as well. That's half the reason I'm back for the New Year's plans.
Yeah, just chocker, like, because it's Sarah's birthday today, but thankfully she's gone to Nottingham Forest, so that gives me the opportunity
Great
to
time to record. Hopefully
podcast
she's in a good mood.
on your wife's birthday. So that always helps. That always helps get that one over the line. Then it's our Sadie's birthday tomorrow, but then she had like a big party the other night and taken loads of kids out, like 10 kids in the house. So it just felt like manic, just pure like Christmas Day, Boxing Day, Sadie's like sleepover, Sarah's birthday, Sadie's actual birthday on New Year's Eve, and then so it's just like full on. What I'm just looking forward to, I'd like don't go back to the 5th this year, so I've just got that like
Amazing.
1st to the 4th in my head is like that's my break when all of this shit's like shit, you know. Well, this good stuff is out of the way, kind of thing, and just got 4 days to chill there. But if you're making changes, Benno. Big change in my life last night. Sarah's been pecking my head for quite a while about the old vegetarianism, and went out for a meal last night for her birthday, and finally done a Chris Jericho and broke those walls down, mate, and a bit of fish. Tiptoed into it. So
over the line. How did you feel? How did it feel? Was it tasty? What should it's feeling. Is fish worth breaking the rules for? I'm not really a fish fan, to be honest. What kind of fish was it? That's what I need to know.
It was breaking
the walls down?
It was like a posh fish and chips. So it was
okay. Yeah,
it was all right. I'm not a big fish guy anyway, kind of thing. But no, she's been. Come on, you were doing this for health reasons. You're doing this for all sorts of reasons, and like it's not it wasn't for the killing animal reasons, was it? Kind of thing, and so she's slowly ground me down. Sick of like having like like 2 teas on the go and things like that. So that felt weird. That felt like a big decision when I was sat looking at that menu last night. There was one vegetarian option, and I was like, you know what? Just for you, we're out for your birthday.
It's the moment.
Like this is it. It felt like a big mental barrier to get over the line with. But I'm feeling a bit weird today, like about it. But not fully there. But I think the way my brain works, I've towed over that line now, sort of thing. So there's kind of no going
now. Yeah, like the chat says there, raw steak by the end of the week, as Andy says. That's the thing. I never thought it was like a moral decision with you, or to be honest, I think you'd said it was a dietary decision, but I would have more chalked it down to it's just Gareth challenging himself. Gareth just figure it out if he can. Like for you, mate. I don't think there had to be a reason. It was a thing you were going to do, so you did it, and you did it well. That's our Gareth. That's what you do. So like I can see now that you've tiptoed back over the line and going very much the opposite direction. When you do meet me and Matty, never mind. Try January. It's going to be big as a go-go, isn't it? You're going to be back into it. Was it the Christmas roast discussion at Christmas? I wonder whether that on our 5-1, maybe that pushed you over the edge as well when you're trying to defend the corner of the nut roast while me and Matty were going about pigs and blankets and such as well. There was
that part of me that nearly went on Christmas Eve. I nearly said, you know what, don't bother making the veggie stuff. I'll just go with it. But held out then, but not now. So yeah, big change afoot. I just need to try and I'll switch it for something now. I need to stop being such a fat bastard, and I think I'll maybe from a challenge point of view, I might go like, right, no chocolate this year or something like that. I always have to have something on the go, like mental. But I was when me and Matty were out for a few drinks the other week, I was saying to him about how Sarah had been trying to grind me down, and he was like, "It's just you, mate." He was like, "You've got that mental line you've drawn in your head." He's like, "You just need to break that line, and then you'll be all right." And then I was like, I had that ringing in my head as well, and thinking, "He's right, I'm just been a stubborn cunt."
Oh, don't let him be right. He can't be having that. That can't be possibly the reason. Oh, he's going to be made up, though. Scrum of the week's going to get insane now. It's going to be a check-in on Gareth on what new meat he's tried at some point. Like I honestly, from a moral point, I do think veganism is the way to go. I'm just, I like food. I'm sorry. It is what it is. And by liking food, I am probably in the week that I'm back in the UK, probably going to put on any couple of pounds of shed while I was in Asia. They'll be back on by the time I see you next in January, mate. So maybe I'll have to join you in some kind of whatever goes forward. But Jesus, he'll be made up, and it will be. That will be a standard segment on the upcoming Matty Edwards pre-shows coming up.
We'll be in Nabs's, mate. We'll be in Nabs's on that night out.
Oh, it's covered in it. Yeah, when you're drunk, that's usually the tiptoe over the line. I had a mate who was like that, who was a veggie, and it was always once he'd had a couple of beers, it was that fried chicken on the way home or a Mackey's or something like that. Don't tell the missus type stuff. So yeah, we'll see what kind of debauchery we can get into here. But obviously, yeah, speaking of Scran of the week, we kind of did Scran of the year pretty much this weekend. For those who missed it, obviously with the schedule and a bit of turmoil and all over the place, we did originally plan to do the Grappies and Crappies last week, but it's just been impossible to put together. Gareth, like you mentioned there, you had the teenage birthday party happening in your house. I was in a hotel in Turkey, trying not to get kicked out. As an update for those who didn't see the Discord, I did get a telling off by the nice Turkish woman on the morning after. It was like, you were making lots of noise last night, and I was like, oh, I was working. I didn't tell her the work was a wrestling podcast. I was like, oh, sorry, I had to take some work calls. I'm really sorry. So you might have noticed me slope off at the end of that show on Saturday. But that was what we did instead, like I say, with the Grappies up in the air. We just extended the pre-show. We've been threatening it for a while, and we did a 3-hour plus Matty Edwards pre-show. Kind of replaced Ask Grapple in the schedule this year. Or if you believe Matty, Ask Grapple never existed, and Ask Matty has always been the way. And he completely invented the new concept on Saturday as we took phone-ins and also took questions, which again does sound like our usual Christmas show. But if you're out there, you're freeloading and thinking, oh, I missed it, and I missed the Ask Grapple shenanigans, it is free on the Patreon. Yeah, it doesn't take much. Just sign up with an email address and you can get it. You don't have to pay anything, do any free trials. Although we've had a couple of people doing free trials over this period. You don't even have to go that far. Just jump on. I think you're pretty sure you can just hit play on the website. I'm not even sure. You might not even have to log in, but it's on the YouTube as well for YouTube members from 99p as well. And felt like a good way to kind of do a Christmas week show, Gareth, without extending ourselves too much. We just got to figure out now when we're doing the Grappies, but that'll be coming up soon, and we'll figure it all out.
We'll squeak that in, but yeah, it was a good show as always. Yeah, totally new, fresh idea by Matty there to do a show.
I think he thinks he invents the pre-show. I don't think he knows we did them for 3 years before he joined. But anyway, carry on.
But yeah, it was good. Obviously, Michael Amphlett jumped on, didn't he, for what I thought was going to be about 5 minutes, ended up being about 5 hours that he was on the call there. So that was good to do that. So again, like you say there, if anybody who's not heard it and can join on, be it like via the Patreon or membership or something like that, great. But then obviously our King of the Mountain patrons jumping in and getting having a good chat there. Liam from Time been on there as well. So yeah, we had a cracking range of discussions, wrestling and none, along the way. So the usual bullshit and all the good stuff. Not actually talking about what's happening in the world of wrestling. The interesting stuff that we all enjoy.
I was disappointed every time a wrestling question came up, to be honest, but we got there in the end. We got it done, and obviously, as you mentioned, we got a few of our kings and queens of the mountain on for the last half hour of the show. One of which being Eddie Sideburns, whose King of the Mountain show is coming up this weekend. For fans of Wrestlicious, the 2 or 3 people out there, I would just say delete your hard drive. But as a secondary thing, if you really want to, you can tune in this weekend as we will be doing Eddie's King of the Mountain show on Wrestlicious. That little known side project of lots of in it, isn't it? And Jimmy Hart. And I say that I haven't watched the second of it. That's how I'm going to be spending at some point this New Year's weekend. I'm going to be spending doing that homework. I didn't do it on the plane. I saved that for the big homework that we're doing today. I didn't want to get a tap on the shoulder from a frightened air stewardess or something.
Anything to declare.
Oh, honest to God. I don't think I'd have made it through customs. I don't think I'd have made it through even the soft border between Dublin and Belfast. I think they would have turned me around. But yep, that's coming up this weekend as well, for those who know. And obviously, we'll have a packed January as well with the Grappies and Crappies. Pretty much kicking things off. I think it'll be the second week of January. Obviously, Wrestle Kingdom and such like that going on as well. But yeah, on top of that, we should get into it, what we're talking about today. And as I said, Gareth, I did actually use my playing time wisely, as we have an AEW pay-per-view to review today. We've got a couple of bits of news and notes that I'll probably mention at the end this week. So it's looking unlikely there'll be a weekend show this week. I did have half a guest planned, and we've just not been able to schedule anything. It's New Year's Day on Thursday as well, which made it very difficult. So maybe we'll get some news in later. Maybe something will pop in your feeds later on in the week. I'm not promising anything, but we'll try and get to that later. But yeah, I did. I was very glad of Tony Khan this week, Gareth. As I said, I was on a 4.5-hour flight from Turkey back to Dublin to then get a bus up to here in Belfast, and I think he was just thinking of me, mate, with just a solid 4-hour pay-per-view. Literally, you get a 15-minute takeoff and where they're setting things up and they won't let you pull your tray down in front of you. As soon as the seatbelt light came off, I managed to pull my little tablet out, throw the pay-per-view on, and genuinely, you'd be impressed by this. Like the second it was 10 minutes to landing, or stow your trays away. We're about to taxi and land. The pay-per-view literally went off the air. MJF was celebrating at the end. Spoilers there, and it was fading to black as I closed my tablet screen. So I'll take that. I was a bit of a prisoner. There wasn't anything else I could do on that flight other than watch Worlds End and WhatsApp News. To be fair, I did have a bit of Wi-Fi as well, but it worked out for me. Did you watch it along live? I was obviously spoiled by a couple of matches in the tail end of the show, but outside of that, I didn't know much when I was watching it there on the plane.
No, I didn't watch it until today when we're recording, so got it done today. But me, managed to stay spoiler free up to this point. So yeah, nothing. Might as well have been watching it live along the way. But yeah, just that's a result for you really. There, just fitting it into that exact flight time, because there's been pay-per-views past where you'd been just about squeezing the pre-show into that flight time as well. There, so getting the main show watched sat on a plane when you've got nothing else better to do sounds absolutely perfect, really. So yeah, good.
They made it better or worse. It was like a test. It's like, again, that'll probably be your test in January. It'd be like, Matty's been saying about it, everything we do, we dual screen. I think it came up on the Christmas pre-show, didn't it? Like I was kind of like, I couldn't really dual screen other than sending the odd WhatsApp message, so I was forced to be locked in and forced to kind of not miss anything, which was good and bad when it comes to the middle stretch of this pay-per-view. Because I think I would say, like, this is like, maybe it's the fact that I was locked in, and maybe it's the fact that I haven't actually seen much feedback on the show because I've been avoiding spoilers, but it did feel like structurally, like this was one of the better AEW pay-per-views. I don't think there's matches I would necessarily change around as far as the order goes. That's not something we always say. I think it was timed out pretty well. I think the right things got the right time. I think my biggest negative as we go through the show, and I think we're just going to go through it in order, is there was maybe a bit towards that middle end that was just lack of investment on my part that did make me wish that I could have a little phone where I could have a little bit of a scroll on TikTok or something like that rather than watching some of the matches there. But that was, that's kind of, I don't know, maybe a symptom of doing so many pay-per-views at this point. I don't know if you had the same broad strokes experience.
Yeah, I think I know the matches that you're probably thinking of as well. Like when you get to that point,
it wasn't a card to be super invested in going in, was it? They knew this was, end of year. Even the TV, it's annoying because, like, I know you've been. That was going to be one of my questions. You've been very dialed into the Christmas TV, but it's almost a shame. Like the Dynamite and Collision was so great last week because I think they probably got half the viewership once we get the numbers through they'd usually get, and I think maybe some of that the attitude in the other direction went into this pay per view and like, we got our Continental Classic, we got our pay per view. There wasn't really a lot to be excited about outside of the main stuff going into this for me.
Yeah, it's that feels like madness to me because, like, I purely just made the time to cram them in, and I just thought, I know so many people aren't going to do it. I know I didn't last year. I remember I didn't see. I just went straight to the pay per view because I just didn't have time to watch like the TV before the pay per view. And given how good they were, and given how essential they are, really, to when it comes to the tournament, like. Imagine like them almost like hiding away like the final day of the G1 or something like that, where somebody's got to rush it kind of thing when everything's coming together at the end. It just feels a bit odd. They could almost do with doing the final day of the group stage like the week earlier, couldn't they? Really, if they were thinking about timing things out, because then it gives it a chance to everyone to see it leading into the pay-per-view, but also just to let it breathe and just get you thinking about it a little bit more kind of thing, and just been, all right, so that's the semi-final, and just kind of get your anticipation up and get you a bit excited for it. But I mean, as an overall pay-per-view, I mean, I watched it in parts, probably watched it in 3 parts, which I think helped kind of thing. I think I was definitely thinking, if I'd have been sat up watching this live, going into them sort of last two matches, I'd have been feeling like quite probably jaded by that little section that had just come before. So yeah, as always, there's always that extra thing. It's almost like AEW pay-per-view review catchphrase, isn't it? Of that match didn't need to be on the main card, kind of thing. But we just kind of have to accept that now. But over it all, start to end, I don't think. outstayed its welcome as a whole. You know, I think it definitely felt there was a bit more disciplined. You know, it was nice to kind of like hit play on Triller and see 4 hours and 5 minutes as opposed to seeing like 5 hours and 10 minutes or something like that and been like, fuck, like how are we going to squeeze this in? So definitely a positive from that point of view.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that obviously we give them pelters when it's the other way around, and we often do. And we talk about show structure and we talk about stroll length and all that stuff. So I think it bears pointing out when they do get those things right. And I think outside of some of the content on the show, which of course we're going to get to, they broadly got those things right. But to your point there, and like the chat are talking about there with the C2 and stuff, like I've seen a lot of talk about that, like should the C2 be in this period? And Tony's like, well, no, I like it as a thing to, because again, November, December, even in New Japan, especially in New Japan, it's always been a bit of a dull period because Wrestle Kingdom's coming up. When you look at WWE, just football season started again. Traditionally, the ratings go down in this period and they don't put much effort in. So it's kind of like you could imagine that being the case with AEW as well, and it's good they have something to hang their hat on. My biggest question would be like, do we have to have this pay-per-view in this week? Like even like behind the scenes, like to squeeze this show in here. Obviously, everyone's got commitments. I'm surprised, we've got a fair amount of viewers watching us, even with the footy on as well. Like it's a tough period, isn't it, to get it watched, like you say there with the TV, or just for people to watch the show. And like obviously, there's all the positives of having a Christmas tradition that went along with Starrcade and other shows like over the years. Like I understand wanting to reclaim that, but it's also a company that you can't help but notice when you look at the schedule. There isn't another pay-per-view till March. It's not like they've got a pay-per-view in the third week of January and it's like, well, I guess we have to have Worlds End now. Could it take place mid-January? I guess there's Wrestle Kingdom, so you don't want it there either, but could be a few weeks after Wrestle Kingdom, couldn't it? Do they have to do Worlds End? Could it be Worlds Begin in January instead? Could we do that? I don't know. It's Tony Khan's traditions, isn't he? And obviously this traditionally, again, is a show that does a little bit less as far as pay-per-views buyers go as well, because of the time that it comes out. You just wonder if they're ever going to have that conversation internally and maybe rethink whether there should be a December show here. But it sounds to me like, he sees the positives outweighing the negatives there.
Well, don't give me any ideas about Worlds Beginning or something like that, because they'll be squeezing in an extra pay-per-view in like a week's time.
We'll get Worlds End as well.
We'll get both. But the Continental Classic being where it is, I love it for this time of the year. It kind of like, I feel like it's become an established thing now, like with it's been running for a few years now. I feel like it's something that you can kind of know is coming at this time of the year and get excited for towards the end. And it's sort of like, especially when you've had like your big build into your sort of your summer and things like that with some big storylines and some big things culminating. It sort of helps the booking as well, doesn't it, really? That you kind of can almost, like as a booker, just take that mental step back and, just becomes about matches, and then it becomes about the story within the tournament as opposed to needing to put, have various feuds running. It gives you the opportunity to reset some people for going into the following year. It gives you a chance to, kick off some feuds that might, have some seeds laid through the tournament and things coming to it. So the tournament itself, I love being at this time of year. And to be honest, I'm fine with like World's End being where it is. I think it's quite sort of, I don't know, I quite like having just this sort of idea of this, right? It's almost like this punctuation at the end of the year before you then, if you think almost almost if you think like historically, like the WrestleMania or WWE season always felt like it was WrestleMania to WrestleMania. I feel like you get a more strict calendar year kind of thing with AEW, and it does feel like you're starting like a new year with like on a bit of a fresh as the calendar year goes with it. So yeah, I don't mind it. I just like that extra week just between the last day of the tournament and the pay-per-view actually happening, really. But I'll be happy if they keep this going, and on that point of the tournament just feeling like established. It generally does feel like this thing now. It's almost like starting to build a bit of heritage and a bit of that goes with it, rather than probably in year one, year two, you were thinking this might be something that Tony Khan just decides just not to do next year, or just moves or changes the way it is, or something like that completely. Whereas I definitely feel like it's like an important part of the wrestling calendar now, and it's getting a bit more prestige about doing well in it.
Well, I mean, I suppose as well, they've got to fit in a lot of the ROH stuff. They have that New York residency they do in December as well. I mean, that was always a positive of ROH's calendar. Final Battle will be in December. It's like the last show of the year. It's important, but it's a couple of weeks before Christmas, so that works as well. Maybe there's a balance in there as well, but there's positives and negatives to do it. And like you say, yeah, the Continental Classic itself is just it's pretty much just, apart from the criticisms we're probably going to get when we get there about it being for a belt and all that entails as an actual thing. Yeah, it does feel like it matters. It does feel prestigious, and it does feel, when we get into some of the characters in it, the stories they're telling, like, are better than a lot of the week-to-week TV you get in other pay-per-view cycles as well. It is, I've said it on a few shows, the show with Joe, and I think the last show I did with you, I think it just ties Tony Khan down as a booker as well, and forces him to, colour between lines for a little while, and I think that's the positive too as well. So yeah, I can definitely see your point there. But to get into the show itself, I'm guessing you didn't watch any of the 0 hour. I didn't. If I had a 5-hour flight, I would have squeezed a bit more of it in. Obviously, I had Sisters of Sin beating High and Maya World. Who's been signed now. Eddie Kingston beating Zach Gibson, and that is a real match that was on the pre-show. Basco Dorado and Bandido beating Mark Davis and Rocky Romero. Pretty much just a Brit Rose show from Birmingham at this point. Look at those names. Speaking of which, people Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight against Jurassic Express against Josh Alexander, Ricochet, Bishop Conan, and Toa Leona. Did you catch any of it? The only thing that caught my eye, and the little bits that I did see, was just to kind of go, God, fucking hell, Eddie Kingston's teaming with Ortiz again as a pre-show tag team. Maybe there'll be more room to chat about that on another show, but it was the only real thing that caught my eye.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched the main pay-per-view, and then I thought, I've got time here to just squeeze in the 0 hour. So threw the matches on there just before we came on, and as expected, all just very very throwaway stuff. It was nice to see Gibson just on there on my TV. Like I enjoyed that. Gave him a microphone for 30 seconds. Unfortunately, didn't get a chance to do a full tirade at the start there that I would have liked to see. And I think the thing for me that jumped out was like when Bandido and Mascara Dorada, they won, and like at the end, like Excalibur was giving it big. This is a team who could, cause real damage in the AEW tag division, and this, if they decide to team in the future, kind of thing. And like, I was kind of a bit like, what are we just fucking off Brodido now and just going to pair these two together? And Bandido's big thing coming out of that is teaming up with Mascara Dorada on a more long-term basis. I hope not. I hope that was just Excalibur just getting excited towards the end there, because that's definitely not the direction that I want to see Bandido going in there. But it was great to see Jack Perry get the W there in the main event as well. Always pleased to see Jungle Boy go
Tony
over
Khan's
there.
mum's favourite wrestler, Apparently that's that what came out in his interview today.
You can fucking tell, mate. Fucking tell.
Makes more sense now, doesn't it? He's booking it for the mums. It does make sense. He's a cute lad. We'll take it. But yeah, that's it. I didn't have much to take away. I skipped through the little bits that I was interested in, but yeah, not particularly consequential 0 hour. But yeah, that takes us into the main card, and I do think the open to the show was probably the most consistent part of it. And obviously, yeah, that's again the Continental Classic, tying things down as we kicked off with Okada Takeshita. Talked about it with Joe being surprised that it got here, obviously through the tournament. Wondered whether it could have been in some draft of it the final, or whether it obviously finding out who won. I guess that's the reason it's not the final. But being surprised a little bit that they were doing it ahead of Wrestle Kingdom here. But obviously a story they've been telling for a while, and one that I did think got faded well from the match. I didn't think it was the greatest match. I think the other Continental Classic match is the one we're probably going to spend more of the time gushing about. But I think they told the story well with like the tentative breaks at the start, with Takeshita kind of leaning, more babyface, and Okada leaning more heel, being the one to cheat that little bit, and to let Takeshita get the little crowd pop from the dives he was doing there, and from pretty much being the more stoic of the two there. Don't think it really got out of second gear for me, Gareth, until the big finish there and the screwdriver spot. But that again is a spot that could have been a bit throwaway in another match, but obviously pays well into the story. How did Okada possibly know that screwdriver was there, which is paid off in the match after it. But yeah, as a match, didn't hugely get going, but as a story and a build for the future, maybe makes a bit more sense for me in the shadow of the pay per view. view now, kind of understanding, there's going to be a bigger match coming up with these two.
Yeah, I mean, I think the story was Yeah, like definitely, and to be honest, it feels weird to look at a match and go, it was good, but it wasn't great, and that was great that it was only good kind of thing for me. Like in a way, it was that sort of thing about they were actually disciplined about it. You know, this was a first sort of semi-final match. It's the first kind of like, you know, this feud that they've been tiptoeing to it. You know, there's potentially there that they could throw all discipline out of the window and just go like, right, let's go fucking balls to the wall here for the first time meeting and try and have the absolute worldy best match possible. But I don't think that's where this needs to be for this match. It's placement on the card, it's placement in the tournament, and then it's like placement for their feud going forward. So it was good for me that they did hold stuff back. They left plenty in the tank there for things going forward. There was enough there for me to get like excited about, of thinking about, oh yeah, I can't wait for, you know, when this proper, you know, splits and this becomes a bit more of a feud rather than just an initial meeting in the tournament at this point there. So like weirdly, I enjoyed the fact that they quite clearly weren't trying to have the best match that they could possibly have, and that we know that they could go out there and just, like you say there, you got sort of just enough with the you know with the finish there. I thought they really kind of like whet the appetite in the middle part. There was that good sort of counter sequence that really kind of got the crowd up as well, where it was probably only for like sort of 3 or 4 minutes, but it was where you had like the tombstone counter by Takeshita that was like into sort of that cradle driver and the wheelbarrow suplex, and then Okada countering back with the running knee, and then Takeshita countering him back with the blue thunder bomb and things. That was all, you know, they picked up the pace there and picked up the intensity, but you just got just a taste kind of thing there, you know, got the crowd on their feet, and I think that worked into it quite well. And then I think just with the finish, with Okada winning in the way he did, and then him, you know, Don Callis obviously going up with the ramp with him at the end and things like that. Again, it's just sprinkling a little bit more kind of seasoning into what's to come there, really. So start to end, I just thought good bit of business for what it needed to be for this particular feud. And then also, I just think the visual of this been the first thing to like open the pay-per-view. Like when the pay-per-view starts and it's like, right, it's Okada v Takeshita, you're like, fucking yes, let's go kind of thing. Like, you know,
package, big entrances, felt important, didn't it?
Yeah, like I was proper like, all right, I'm, you know, yes, let's come on, World's End, I'm here for you, sort of thing. At that point, really, when you're starting off with a match like that. So yeah, good stuff for me. All in all, even though I knew it wasn't the 5-star classic, I wasn't disappointed either.
Yeah, and again, on the finish, you know, Ewan saying there in the chat, you know, the finish kind of killed it for him. I think I kind of had that emotion, like, in the moment, and then it was like, because obviously, you know, we got Takeshita, who's the IWGP champion, Okada himself got a big match coming up at Wrestle Kingdom. I'm sure there's politics involved. I'm sure on some level they wanted to protect Takeshita, and if that's all it was, I'd be kind of going, okay, do we really need this to protect Takeshita? Okada could have just beat him, but that's only if it's a standalone match. With this story and with, you know, the full split having not happened yet, it's a good little layer to throw in there, isn't it? Like I say, especially when it became clear that it wasn't as straightforward as he was just given the screwdriver. The screwdriver was set up for the second match. I think they put an amount of thought into it that kind of covers that kind of cheap finish that you get there, and it, if anything, adds to the story, as you say, rather than takes away from it. And it's something to build off more than anything. I've got more criticism when it comes to the second Okada match later in the show, not necessarily getting out of the gears I wanted it to get out of. But this one, I can forgive it, like I say, for the greater story being told. And it remains one of the better things that's happening on Dynamite over the next while. And it, again, you know, like I say, was a great little match to just give you a bit of a teaser until we get Wrestle Kingdom out of the way, and we'll see what position he's in coming out of it, of Takeshita being a full-blown babyface in AEW. And he is someone who's been kind of hiding in plain sight for so long in AEW, as someone who's just, it's obvious. It's like, I've said it before about him, it's not easy to be a non-English speaker on wrestling TV in America and get over to the level he's over, and to get a crowd connection to the level that he's got. and he's got it, and he's got every other piece of the puzzle there for him. It's just make some money with him, make him part of that elite crew that you've got at the top with your Hangman and your Swerve and your Ospreay and potentially your Omega. Like, he should be in that, maybe a notch below, but very close to those guys. And yeah, who knows what else he could do if you push him there. So I feel like that's coming in 2026, and it's only the calendar that might be the problem.
Yeah, 100%, and I think that's what's so good about it. You can see that potential with Takeshita. They're turning up the dial on the Okada heelism stuff at the other end. They're turning up the dial on the impact of the Don Callis relationship with both of them and things like that as well. It remains the thing I'm probably most excited about going into 2026. To be honest, when it comes to feuds that are on the table, because you've seen it. We know enough of both guys that we just know it's just going to deliver. It's going to be great.
For sure. Well, following that, we had the second Continental Classic match, and again, felt big time with Jon Moxley and Kyle Fletcher coming out. It just seems to get bigger month by month. Maybe it's the pink, I don't know what it is, or the white combined with or the black combined with the pink that he was wearing here, but it made him look big time. And obviously, I thought this was Bryan Danielson, got to be shouted out. Had some incredible calls on this show. I think he did a really good job in this one and telling the story through the night, because the story of this point of the Continental Classic is very much been the Moxley story, and obviously Brian pointing out them getting a bit of a babyface response coming out, pointing out that Marina Shafir wasn't there with him, at least for the entrance part of it, even though she couldn't be at ringside. I thought that worked really well, and obviously I'll let you give us the full detail, but I just thought this was worked so well for someone who's getting a little bit of criticism this week, undeserved in my opinion, but maybe we'll get there at the end of the show. Some criticism he's had is valid. I thought Kyle Fletcher did an incredible job on this show as far as being like a stooging heel, kind of being that great. Again, it's heel versus heel in all seriousness as far as how these guys are defined in the roster, but being that type of heel that's stooging and selling and bumping around, making Mox come for him a bit more directly, making Mox have to be the one to hit him with strikes and stuff like that. I thought his placement in the match, whether it was called by Moxley or called by him, was absolutely brilliant. I thought Moxley was just, it was a bit broad at times, when Kyle was like grabbing submissions and stuff like that, and he's reaching out for for the fans, like the world's biggest babyface, just desperate, to get out of it. He was proper exaggerated, wasn't it? It wasn't quite all-star come-on stuff, but it was very clearly a babyface performance from Moxley. I thought that was brilliant, and they used a lot of, your tropes of, your high-level matches, but, your one-count kickouts and such like that to drive home that drama as well. That had a bit of purpose with Moxley as well. Big pops with his kickouts through this, and it had a whole bunch of, high-level stuff in the closing stretch as well. But I'll go to you, Gareth, on this one first. Like, I did feel like this had, structurally really well put together, and very clearly there was a defined purpose to this match, which was to tell this Moxley story, for Kyle Fletcher to be the heel, really, and Moxley to be this rallying babyface that he's kind of become across the TV shows over the last while. And yeah, I thought it was pitched absolutely perfectly and gave us a great match to boot as well.
Like an absolutely fantastic match. But before I get into it, who's been criticising Kyle Fletcher?
Oh, Regal.
That fucking knobhead. Like, he's been the fucking best wrestler in the world. Seriously, I don't know. Clearly, that's something I need to go and catch up and read. And
we'll get into it at the end of the show.
All right, okay, good. Because if you're criticising Kyle Fletcher right now, you don't know what you're fucking criticising, because there's nobody out there that's doing it better. And I think that just goes to it for the whole performance in this match. It's like start to end, because he keeps getting put in these situations with these relatively, on paper, high caliber opponents, and he just fucking lives up to it every single time, no matter who it is. Diversity of style of opponent, diversity of heel face dynamic, and things like that he needs to play into is so versatile. Is the ability to when there's people like popping for stuff that he's doing to maintain himself as a heel through these like scenarios is just like first class as well. And I just think
that's where that I think, just to cut in, that's where I think there has been some valid criticism in the past, where I think he's got better at that over time. Like there's been times where he's had, like those collision bangers against whoever of the month, and like maybe he's leaned a little bit. There's one particular one like that was like in about the autumn time, and it was like, Carl, mate, you're the heel here. You're not the babyface. You shouldn't be going for pops. Like he's had a couple of those moments, I think, but that was, we're talking like 3, 4, 5 months ago. And if anything, he should be congratulated for maybe taking the right advice, not from a Regal and not from a Darren from HR, and giving a performance like this. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no. I mean, again, and I think that's just the big part of it is like that with all of these positions that he keeps getting put in, a different aspect of his game just seems to get better and better every time, and you're just seeing like, I did the Martin Bushby and Andrew Thompson show like just sort of towards the end of the year there, and that was something we were talking about, and it just feels like every part of his aspect of his game, he just like improves every time you see him. And I think for this, I loved the start of this like match where he got the better of the early exchanges, but then he just eased off and started doing that powdering where he was going to the outside and doing a bit of crowd work and stuff. And then when you're talking there about like Mox reaching out to the fans and things like that, this was almost fucking all-star stuff, wasn't it? Of like getting out of the ring. And I was thinking Nathan Cruz's agent did this, hasn't he?
Just needed to do like the clap, a little weird side all-star clap.
There's like bit of that going on, because then like Mox is getting furious, and then cause him to come in and like get angry and chase him kind of thing, and then that ultimately leads into the spot with the the knee in the ring post where they set that up, that becomes a fundamental part of the match. So just like quite early on there, you've established that Fletcher's the one we want you to be here, Mox is the one we want you to cheer here. Like Fletcher's done that work despite getting the advantage like early on with some good stuff to make the crowd see him as the heel kind of in this scenario, and then build it into something that it's then like playing on that Mox injury to give them a central thread to just go to throughout this match, and Kyle be able to go to that, and then it'd be something that they can call back to in the final later on in the show. I just thought it was just great setup to the match, and just for the evening, it just worked so well for both people as you needed it to here. But then then just other little stuff like throughout the way where like I think where Kyle had hit that brainbuster on the apron, and then is wanting to win by like count out and things, just proper shitbag Weasley heel stuff sort of thing. That's just as old school as it comes kind of thing, but getting them reactions, getting the crowd behind, Mox as they're sort of trying to tailor to ear a little bit like that as well. Thought that was great. I'm guessing the criticism from Darren HR maybe comes from the.
You haven't seen it. When Gareth goes spoiler free, he really goes spoiler free. Fucking dominated Twitter for 3 days, mate, and I haven't even gotten involved in it. But yeah, exactly that. Pretty much, Darren from HR is, it's one of those. It's been. I might have to take people don't expect on this one. It's a bit like when Triple H gets shit on the internet. It's like, even like obviously over the Gunther finish with John Cena, I'm kind of like, well, I actually think that was the right finish, but I'm not going to say that out loud because I'd rather Hunter just got loads of shit for his booking, whether it was for the right reason or the wrong reason. I kind of feel like that about this because, that's basically a minute. Obviously, the bump off the top rope where he lands on the top of his fucking head. It's like a Cobra Clutch suplex, isn't it? And Regal said something along the lines of, I've been sent this clip, or, I've been told about this. Like, fuck off, mate, whatever. But he's like, and I've just got to, and he talks about like neck safety in wrestling and how you only get one body and all of that stuff, and some risks aren't worth taking, and I think at the crux of it, it's not an unreasonable thing to say, while at the same time I don't really care, because that's a lot of people in Regal's comments are kind of saying. I think we've almost I agree with it if it's like advice point of view, like you take enough risks in wrestling, you don't have to add this to it as well. The match would have worked without it. It could have arguably, well, was it a brainbuster on the apron as well? Like, maybe you don't need to do it if you're talking like wrestler to wrestler. It's just the timing of it. Yeah, it's Regal coming out and saying this, about an AEW match, and a lot of people pointing out, everything does get tribalistic, unfortunately, pointing out that, he didn't say anything when similar bumps have happened in WWE, which, in fairness to Darren from HR, you could say he's probably having those conversations in quiet backstage, and maybe that he doesn't have those to have that conversation at AEW. But yeah, Kenny Omega has come out and said that his heart was in the right place, and he agrees broadly. And that's Kenny Omega saying it, with the argument that wrestlers should be thinking about their later lives when it comes to taking Irish bumps and stuff. But I don't know, much ado about nothing for me. I just feel like, again, like I was going to say then, if your issue is moralistically like none of us should be watching wrestling, these people are shortening their lives for our enjoyments. Like, that's literally what it is. Every wrestler who gets in the ring, every wrestler who takes a body slam, every wrestler who takes a flat back bump, like, most of that is enough that it's going to cause, like Arn Anderson last week, saying that, he retired before the age of 40 and he's in pain. Never mind what these young wrestlers are in. I was like, well, doesn't that tell you that wrestling in general is just a thing that really humans shouldn't be doing? The crash test dummies, aren't they, for our entertainment? Think of the lives that have been lost over the years as a result of, giving us this entertainment we enjoy. It. For me, it's a little bit rich when people clutch the pails over specific spots, when I think really it's either all or nothing for me. Just take the whole fucking thing away. It's a bit like getting like that with concussions in UFC or something like that. It's like at the point that you're sitting there watching UFC, I think you're stepping over a moral line as it is. But I don't know. Quite interesting that you've missed this entire story, Gareth. But I can't imagine you were having the same thoughts as Darren when you saw the spot.
Nah. I mean, Darren also needs to think about people who get absolutely off their head on somas and go in the ring and fucking take other people's bodies into their hands when they're not in a fucking fit, physical or mental state to be wrestling either. So maybe jump in a DeLorean, Darren, and get yourself back in time and worry about what you were doing on your own fucking watch a few years ago. But the main concern for me when this spot happened was like literally on that show that I talked about with Andrew and Martin, I was like, assuming he doesn't get a serious injury next year, Carl Fletcher's going to be like the best wrestler in the world, undeniably. And then that spot happened, and then he sort of hit the mat, and I was like, oh fuck, have I jinxed that completely? Like, because is he actually okay here? And then obviously very quickly you could tell that he was okay, but fuck, rough landing, wasn't it?
I just jumped out of my seat, mate. The person next to me in the plane was like, what's he fucking doing? Lost my mind. Good job I wasn't watching Wrestlicious. Might have jumped out of my seat for another reason instead. Yeah, it's like you've been saying that. I wouldn't go as far to say it added to the match, but I don't know. Like I say, I'm not. If this Regal controversy hadn't happened, I don't think I'd be talking about it in those terms. I've got to be honest. Like maybe I'm a sadist. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I should be more moralistic with me wrestling, but I maybe wouldn't go as far as I don't care, but my position on it kind of comes close to that. And like I say, if Regal's heart's in the right place, I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to say. It's just a question of whether his heart is in the right place when it's coming out at the time of, some negative stories around WWE, and when it's about AEW as well, because I also think as well, even if it's not like a negative Darren being a snake thing that some are painting it as. Like, I think it probably just as simple as in WWE, he's the person who takes people aside and has the conversation about, hey lads, probably shouldn't have done that in the match, which I think is fair enough in his role. And I think there's just a perception, and maybe it's reality within some of these been backstage at AEW, that conversation isn't being had at AEW, and that these older wrestlers feel like Tony Khan's probably sat backstage going, yeah, more, land on your necks more, and they feel like they have to step in and go, there's no fucking grown-ups there, so I have to say. And it's almost that looking down on AEW and looking down on Tony Khan or a young wrestler like Carl Fletcher and the way they present wrestling. But yeah, maybe that's being charitable, maybe not, but I don't know. I've got my own baggage when it comes to Darren. What can we say?
Yeah, 100%.
And he did get a lot of named top 5 really Regal matches. I was proud of that. There's a few people in the book saying that, which was absolutely nothing to do with the argument either, but I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah. You still want that going his way, but when it comes to like placement in the match as well, maybe that is one of the areas that you could criticize for this match, arguably, because obviously that was such a big brutal spot, and like when you know that he is okay, then it's cool as fuck, isn't it? Like seeing it, like it's so like it's such a great spot, but like literally, like a minute later or 2 minutes later, he's fucking like hitting a half and half, and then you're like, okay, so yeah, if you kind of if you're doing that, like really, it's kind of got to blend into the finish or something, surely, hasn't it? Kind of thing, not something that you're able to quickly come back from and go the other way with. But I mean, in terms of the outcome, like.
I thought the finishing stretch was great. I thought the way they put it together, obviously, like I say, with Kyle going for the screwdriver and it not being there. I like that, like one night storytelling. It's like, oh, right. Okay, that explains it. That's why Okada got it in the end. Thought that was good. I thought the little Brett Piper tease was really good, or Brett Austin tease, whatever you want to do as a near fall was good. And I liked the excess in the finish as well. I liked that it took a couple of Death Riders and they didn't do it, and then Mox had to grab the choke. And, even then you almost like Kyle countering it, didn't you? You get Mox kind of locking it in. I thought Bryce was a bit weird in the finish, the way he was kind of raising Kyle's hand and not sure whether he was supposed to call the match over or not. But again, if you're going to protect someone, I'd rather, if all things are equal, you protect someone like this by going a little bit far in the finish and stretch than, doing a cheap finish like we got for story reasons in the first match. I think it was a good way to make Kyle look superhuman, despite maybe some fair criticisms there as well. And yeah, I think it gave Moxley the big win that this should have felt like.
Yeah, and again, like obviously, like you say there, with what it took to get the job done at the end, like it kept Kyle very strong, but it didn't babyface him either as well, which again I think is like really important. And I think just the little punctuation just sort of straight after the match where Kyle went straight in with the chop block onto Mox after the bell, like to obviously cause him some damage out of personal frustration, but also cause him a bit of damage for his Don Callis family member partner to capitalise on a bit later as well. So again, when you think about one night storytelling, the couple of like little beats running through this that we've referred to along the way there as well, which shows that people are putting the right care and attention and a lot of thought into the way this works there. And Kyle Fletcher's taken a loss there, but you're still thinking like fucking what a boy, like is a like totally up there with the top guys in AEW, same as you did when he lost to Hangman and things like that as well. He's someone who you always talk about. People go mad about losses sometimes, but Kyle Fletcher's somebody who's taken losses in recent months and managed to elevate himself in the process as well. Losing his belt to Mark Briscoe along the way. He's taken quite a lot of defeats over the last sort of 3 to 4 months, but he's ending the year still feeling more than he was in the midpoint of the year as well. So again, it just shows with the right, performer, right care and attention to the way that the story's been told, things like that you can elevate someone in defeat too. And they definitely did that here.
Yeah, and told that story, and like you say, gave that extra bit of sympathy for Mox, and didn't overdo it either. I can understand, like, the closing stretch not being to everyone's taste as far as, layering in, all of those kickouts and those, maybe a little bit of excess there. But they were very, unlike AEW, quite like reserved when it came to that. It was one chop block, wasn't it? It wasn't an extended beatdown. It wasn't anything more. But if anything, less was more in that scenario. It made Kyle look like even more of a dickhead as he kind of walked off, knowing that just that one strike was enough. And it allowed the camera to just dwell on Mox. He didn't have to sell past out. He got to sit on the apron and kick his knee out a little bit and just let you know that I really am feeling this one. It was just, great tournament booking. Really well done. And for me, the high point of the night, but we'll get there later. It's the things that may well run it close. But yeah, at this point, I did have on my notes, and I was taking notes as I was on a plane. I had nothing else to do. Apparently, Tony Schiavone called this opening to the show 2 of the best matches he's ever seen. Like, I've got a few notes on Tony Schiavone as we go through the night. Like, I just think he's in very, very much danger of getting into too much WCW Tony mode here. Like, there is just I always feel like that happened in WCW, didn't it? The more checked out he was, the more over the top he went about how great everything was. I feel like there's a little bit of that happened with AEW, where it's like, come on, Tony, like, we've all got eyes and ears. Like, this was good. And the first match saved the purpose, but like, you go so far. Like, I don't think he's ever understood that, though, as far as like protecting his own, integrity there. I think he could actually learn something from a Bryan Danielson, who again was excellent here and later on in the night.
Yeah, totally, wholeheartedly agree with that. And like,
I'd take him on the booth at this point. I'm not sure we need him. I really don't. We got Brian there. Brian can be the third man. Whether you put Taz as the other guy once Taz is back around, or even Nigel and Brian in the same booth, maybe that's too much. But I don't think we need Schiavone. I really don't.
Yeah, I think he's got his little spot where he does his in-ring interviews and things like that, and that's where I'd be using him personally. At the moment, I'd love that extended dynamic between Nigel and Brian on commentary. Like, I think it could be.
We just end up wanting the match again, though, wouldn't we?
it could become something though that again, it's like it could become that kind of like classic commentary pairing where it's like one versus the other, and they're sort of like begrudgingly forced to kind of agree on certain things sometimes, kind of thing. Like it could, while it's never going to be that, it could follow that dynamic to a certain degree. I'd love to see that, definitely more so than having Tony Schiavone on everything under the sun. But yeah, I think you just can't. I mean, Danielson just adds so much, doesn't he? To like everything. You're watching a story unfold in front of your eyes, and like. You're piecing it together yourself, and you're looking at little bits, and you get certain bits, and then you maybe miss a little bit of something, and then Danielson might just add a little something that sends your brain in a different direction, or he just kind of like puts that punctuation point on something that you maybe have picked up on that maybe everybody wouldn't have picked up on, and things as well. But as well, he's so great at getting it across like it is a real contest, like a genuine contest, and I think that adds so much, like in a promotion where, you're not like in a this is sports territory kind of thing, but especially when you're in something like a tournament placement, for this type of match, it makes it feel a bit more real kind of thing. He makes it feel like there is stakes to play for and stuff, and God, you can only applaud that as a commentator.
For sure. Well, that takes us into FTR. This is the Bang Bang Gangers, the AEW tag division. Maybe it could do with another Bandido tag team. Rumble's on. We have Juice Robinson, obviously, teaming here with What's His Face Gun. I feel like Juice is just like pretty much cycling through bad looks at this point. I'm not sure what was going on here with him tonight. And I don't know with this one. I feel like it's one of 4 or 5 matches, as I've said, in the middle of the card that are pretty much written out. Could have done without this. Could have done without this. Could have done without this. This is probably the lead for that. And it's not like they didn't try. I like that they tried to give it a bit of a different feel by brawling around it, up the stage and stuff like that. It reminded me of a little bit of like those early 90s Nasty Boy tags with Cactus Jack that you got in there, whatever Man Mountain Rock was called in WCW. So he's always been Man Mountain Rock to me. Back Max Payne was his name back then. Like those types of matches, it had a bit of that feel to it, but I don't know. It just felt like as soon as we got rid of the weapons and we got back to the in-ring, the silence was pretty deafening. And like I say, the extended FTR heat with the weapons kind of was a bit of a moment for that as well. There were some moments like Cash doing the dive to the outside and kind of overhitting that table that were cool. There was a bit of a weird bit in the middle of the match where they were teasing rope breaks, and then it turned out there weren't rope breaks, and it was just kind of like, well, why did we bother teasing a rope break spot for the last couple of minutes? And then I got a bit of a giggle out of the Stokely stuff at the end of the match with him, obviously missing the table by a mile. He's one of those characters in wrestling who will get more mileage out of missing the table than he would ever get through going through the table. And yeah, we had a couple of decent false finishes there with the Shatter Machine and the multiple power drivers going to the finish there. But at the end of it, the crowd went mild, and I did too. And yeah, this was one of the matches going into the show that looked like, this is very much a year-end pay-per-view where not much thought has been put out into the lesser stuff on the show, and I kind of felt that coming out of it.
Yeah, it was a match that I'm not going to like turn around and say like it was crap or I hated or anything like that. It was perfectly fine for what it needed to be. Absolute standard 2.5 to 3 star fodder kind of thing that didn't overstay its welcome. Like what was it there for? It's FTR have won the belts. They need to just have a mini feud to get a first defense of the belts up before they move on to something. And these were perfectly fine opponents for them to kind of have as a stopgap and a holding pattern here for it. It was one of them. You're never going to write home about it. I've still got my doubts about the justification of the match even happening after the challenge comes, because Dax got his foot on the rope when he was pinned, and Juice thinks they should be the champions, and it's just like, well, hang about, kind of, no, he got his foot on the rope. That's the rules. So I think that's you didn't win the match, mate, kind of thing. And then obviously like, with your saying there about the rope break stuff in this, it just makes him look stupid. Like, which I don't know. Maybe that's the plan. Maybe make him look as stupid as possible to go with his stupid dress sense and everything like that. But yeah, just it was a match that was there. It was fine. It was entertaining enough, and
could have been on Collision, couldn't it?
I'll never think about it again in my life. It's proper one of them kind of just throwaway bit of filler, and just
get you through the pay-per-view cycle.
A tick in the box for a FTR title defense.
Definitely. That's all there is really you can say about it. And I kind of felt like that at the follow-up match. Obviously, we had the women's tag match after that one. Babes Araf and Mercedes Moné and Athena obviously were telling this story of Mercedes losing all these belts and all that story kind of going on. We got a very weird backstage segment with it later in the night as well. But yeah, another one for me. I think this probably went a bit long with it's like the crowd were popping for a couple of the fun babyface spots. But outside of that, didn't seem gigantically into it. And yeah, it was another match that it just felt like something for Mercedes to do for the month. And again, you've got these women's tag belts. Well, they've got to be on the show, and we need the tag team to go against them. So Mercedes and Athena can be the one, and they put a little bit of legwork into setting the match up. But again, pretty low stakes, and I think that was reflected in the crowd reaction. I don't know if you had more takes on this one than the men's tag.
I mean, to be honest, it was almost like carbon copy being there as the men's tag team, title match there, no genuine contenders. It's somebody there who could sort of fill in and, put that, have there as the match. I actually enjoyed it slightly more than the men's match. So whereas in the men's, I was like 3 star, I've gone like 3.25 for this or something like that. I just got
at least some likable baby faces here. At least you had that.
I thought of Athena, there was a couple of sloppy things with her, but then a lot of what she did just looked really, really fucking good. Like, I thought that dive that shit where she was like 100 mile an hour, like I thought that looked fucking great. I just think a lot of through the match, like just sort of like a movement and a flow just between moves that she was hitting and things like that. You can just tell someone, they're just a lot better than a lot of the other women who are on the AEW roster, and it just left me just thinking like, fuck, they just need to just get her involved on the main TV next year and just get her out of this fucking ROH purgatory. And then, I'd sort of started writing my notes before the match was over, and, I was writing there about like, fucking hell, we just need like a proper Athena versus Mercedes feud next year. That'd be something that would be really good. And then obviously there was a bit of the sort of accidentally at each other and things. So there was a bit of dissension roped in there. So I was kind of a bit like, yeah, hopefully, that follows along the lines. You had like Willow obviously getting the pin here as well. That again, just left me kind of hopeful. Like, okay, well there you go. She's got a pin over the champ there as well. So again, that's hopefully something for her to feed into. I think they're taking each other on, aren't they, on Dynamite next week as well. So again, hopefully it kind of inches towards Willow getting involved in that picture there really. But it just kind of just left me feeling like, yeah, there's more that 3 of the people in this match should be doing than in a women's tag team title match 4th on the show, because 3 of them are fucking miles better than that. And that's not to say that I don't enjoy Harley Cameron for what she is as a character kind of thing. She's done well to get herself over, but really she shouldn't be sort of rubbing shoulders with this lot for much longer. Really, there's different ways to use her.
Definitely, yeah. Simon saying in the chat, I guess the feeling Athena likes being a big fish in a small pond over in ROH, which is funny because we were all moaning about it being trapped in ROH for so long, weren't we, as well? But you kind of just want like some of that presentation as maybe at more of a singles in AEW. We'll see, but yeah, a match that was there to take up some time more than anything. At this point, by the way, as well, this is where my food came on the plane. It was very nice little it's like a bit of burger meat with rice. I don't know what the Turkish name for it would be. They just said it was steak. It definitely wasn't steak, but very nice. Enjoyed it. Had a nice little coffee as well. Nice little dessert too. Great times. But yeah, that was about what I had in the background. Didn't quite get a beer, but I wish I had got one for the next match that came up, which was obviously we had Gabe Kidd, who's got fuck all to do at Wrestle Kingdom this weekend outside of multi-man nonsense, up against Darby Allin, which was a match that, again, when me and Joe previewed it last week, we were just like, how did we get to this? What? Not knowing, obviously, the full Dynamite and Collision story, but like, even then, I think it's charitable to say there's a backstory here, because there is one. Things have happened, but it feels a little bit like, obviously Darby of dropping out of the Continental Classic is very much the reason this was here. And I also like as well, Continental Classic is pretty much over, so it doesn't, ruin my OCD too much that Darby's back wrestling, although I feel like Jack Perry didn't do particularly great with his points that he should have got in the tournament. But either way, it gave us a reason to get these two on the card. So of the matches that could have done without being here, this was probably the one that I did think added to it as stylistically, these are just two people that kind of fit together, don't they, as far as like going up against each other. I remember thinking that, Forbidden Door time, that it was a kind of perfect kind of two people at a certain point in the cards and both companies and characters that kind of blend together that could bring out the insanity in each other. And like I say, with this one, they really did. Lots of blood on both ends, a lot of nastiness, multiple spots there they came up with daft drop kicks into steel chairs and assisted by steel chairs. A daft Derby coffin drop in here as well. It was, again, felt like they encouraged each other's madness throughout this one. There was a ropey sharpshooter from Derby that I'd like to get your thoughts on. Feel like his arms went the air, or maybe it was Gabe's legs went the wrong way around on that as well. But yeah, these also did a Brett Piper, but used it as the finish, and maybe the agent could be a touch better. But outside of that, I enjoyed this as a bit of a whirlwind kind of car wreck type of match there. These two characters should absolutely be having, and yeah, maybe a little bit more build, at least in this pay-per-view window, would have been better. But I get the want to do it. And for me, this felt like one of the matches that was surplus to requirements, but in the end, added to the night rather than took away from it. What say you?
Oh, 100%. Like, I had a fucking great time watching this match, and like, again, there was a little bit of reasoning behind it with some of sort of the Death Riders stuff and things that's gone before, and then obviously what they did on Dynamite or Collision this week in the in the build up to it. But just Darby Allin's just so fucking entertaining, and like how often is he just doing the same stuff that we've seen him do like a million times before, but somehow it just, I don't know, it never gets tired. I never get tired of it. Like to me, it always feels like a fresh on the card, and just jumps out. It's just been a bit different on the card. Like, I always got time for it, and like you say, Gabe was just a cracking opponent for him. They just they just sort of meshed together so well here, and I just think with Gabe sort of like just bullying him, just destroying him. That's kind of what you want to see with Darby Allin, is just getting shit happen to him kind of thing, and him just bumping all over the place and just taking like the mad dives. There was that spot where he launched him over the barricade in front of the timekeeper's table as opposed to through it. I was like, confirmed listener to the show there, to Benno the other day, talking about that one getting in the bin forever, someone going through the barricade. He threw him over it. I was like, Benno will be punching the air there on his plane.
I'll take a bit of it.
Watching this one. But
yeah, me ready meal on the plane almost went flying during the thing. Yeah, it was great.
The old slingshot up like into the steps. That was a fucking great spot. That looked great. Talk about the ropey sharpshooter. There's and the old Brett Piper there as well. Another spot there as Gabe whipped Darby into the far turnbuckle. And how did he hit that buckle, Benno?
Steer him first, but I'll accept it when it's only once, mate. When it's not every match, I think I'm all right with it. Again, listen to the pre-show if you want to hear my take on that on Saturday. But I'll take that situational, He just forgot to turn around this time, not every single time. But hey, like you said, though, Brett's the one who gets it right. It's all the other wrestlers who are wrong. Why do they turn around? What are they doing?
But like, it's so again, good little tribute spot there. But I just think just something like the coffin drop on the floor, that again, that looked fucking great there. I just loved some of the nastiness of like there where the fucking blade job that Gabe Kidd did must have been a belter, because the fucking blood all over the floor on the outside there at that point looked great, but then it just sort of like fed into the on the top rope stuff there where like Gabe was setting up like the top rope pile driver, and then Darby's just biting him in that blood that he's got gushing all over his forehead. It's a great spot there, and then for him to then turn it into an Avalanche Code Red like off the back of that as well, just a great fucking mental spot that's just come back after a coffin drop off the floor, and then when you're biting into somebody's like crimson mask there, like brilliant stuff there, like, and then working into the finish. Obviously, you talk about the shitty Scorpion Deathlock there, but then the got kidded there where he hit the lariat, and then that jumping pile driver that he hit. Thought that looked fucking great there as well. The way fucking Darby hit the mat and bounced there out.
You do that with Darby. You can jump aside you want. It's like wrestling with a teddy in it, or like you shouldn't do it, but I'm sure wrestling with your kids or like a younger brother or something like that. You can throw him around. You can do what you want. It felt like that. It's like he took advantage.
Yeah, great. Great stuff. And obviously Darby rolls. Darby should win. He does win. Rolls through, gets the finish. I just had a great time watching this match. I just thought it was just coming off the back of the last two that felt like, they were nice little matches that served a purpose for what they needed to be and were entertaining enough. This was the one that kind of just was a bit of a jolt in me there of like, fucking right, I'm right back into this now. This is perked me up good and proper.
I didn't note the entrances I wanted to mention. Darby's weird video with the dying rabbit I could have done without. And also, I don't like that Gabe Kidd comes out the crowd, like in the stupidness where he was behind like the fucking
behind the fence. It looked rubbish.
Behind the fence, it was like, whoever came up with that should have been told no immediately. If it was Gabe himself, just like, mate, it's a bit cringe, mate. You don't need to. I prefer him as like he's great. He fits. Literally, Benno and Hamfoot were doing the Heart Foundation 97 right now. He's perfect as that Brian Pillman who's not really in the stable, but he's in the stable. Like, he doesn't need to do like the whole Death Riders entrance and all that. He should be his own man because clearly Tony Khan sees something in him. It's very funny and interesting that he was one of the most. Again, you missed the news cycle, but Yota Tsuji was very negative on AEW this week, saying that the relationship gives New Japan nothing. Why do we bother? Gabe Kidd was that guy 6 months ago, like saying all those things, and I almost feel like Tony Khan, DM'd him or something like that, and they had a heart-to-heart, and now he's more a Tony Khan guy than a Gedo guy at this point. You can tell Tony really likes him in the booking. But obviously he had to lose here, but he's clearly well-regarded in AEW, and I feel like he could add something at that point in the card going forward, and it'd be a shame for New Japan to lose him, but feels like they're going to be, that's another news story I was going to mention later, they're losing a lot of people there, especially from the Bullet Club Bulldogs, and it wouldn't shock me if he was another one out the door soon.
Yeah, but again, he's somebody who, from a heel perspective, you can slot into probably these bits on the cards where you can have these wild brawls and just like mental matches. It just works quite well there, and you can just see that working with other baby faces that they've got on the roster too there. So for me, it's like it'd be a welcome addition to see a bit more of him, just freshens certain things up.
Definitely. You've been saying there, he said he thought he did the gaze entrance because his theme has the lyrics, finally the kid's uncaged. If it does have those lyrics, that's even worse. Like, that's another reason why I shouldn't do it. Like, again, I always say he's one of those wrestlers, he throws 30 ideas at the wall, and there's always those 10 that don't really work. And that's part of those 10. But you take the ones that work with Gabe Kidd. So overall, I'm still a fan, but good match on the card, which takes us into another match that I've written down could do without, which is the Mixed Nuts Mayhem match, which obviously, again, confirmed Grapple listeners coming off our talk about Mixed Nuts on the tier list, which I'm pretty sure Matty wanted to put in the top tier, which he tends to want to do with most things. I don't think we allowed him in the end, but apparently this was to flog a beer, which Matty was actually also doing on the pre-show at the weekend. But I don't know, another match where I can't imagine you got many takes because I don't. It was a lot of I know, felt like the Death Riders team here where it was Claudio getting off his favorite old Chikara spots. Him and Orange Cassidy just getting those weird tandem heel corner moves all in. I've definitely seen him do that in a Cibernetico at some point when he was part of the Kings of Wrestling. I thought it was a good showing for Tony Storm. I quite enjoyed it going back and forth with some of the men in there. That doesn't always work with all characters, but I think it really worked well for Tony. She had good chemistry with Orange Cassidy in there as well. We got the little cute Marina and Roddy spot in there as well. Mark Briscoe wins, and sends us all home, my people. Is there much more to say? It was another match to fill out the card, this one, even if with at least with some endearing personalities in there.
Yeah, I had fun watching it. Again, it was like if you're taking that break from seriousness. I love a bit of comedy in my wrestling as well, and I did get as bad as probably is. I did get a kick out of the Orange Cassidy, Tony Storm doing their little ballroom dancing spot as somebody caught an elbow and then someone catches a foot to the face and things off the back of it. I was laughing in my living room with that, and I was thinking, here we go in a world where Orange Cassidy has run his course to this point that he's probably taken more L's this year than I've ever seen him take on TV. And Tony Storm's where she is, I was like, I wouldn't be too against a bit more Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm together doing a bit of comedy, because I think they could play off each other quite well here. But again, I think some of the in ring as well. Tony was them Germans shit on Garcia and Yuta, and then obviously the tornado DDT on Claudio and things like that. It was just good to see those spots thrown in there.
She struggled a bit with the power driver, didn't she, on Daniel? Like, it felt a little bit like, because again, he's not a big bloke, but he's a bit bigger than obviously the women that she usually work with. She struggled a bit there, but I like that. It added a bit of an interesting dynamic. Like, it was a genuine, can she pull this off? And she did in the end.
Yeah. The other point for me on this one was just how much leagues above Daniel Garcia, Wheeler Yuta is, and like there's always this clamour for Garcia, and I'm just like, Yuta's your guy. I know I'm a Yuta guy here, kind of thing. But when you,
I think you were a Garcia guy back in the day, maybe a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I think coming out of the Indies and things, he was someone who I had high hopes for that could build on. But like that's definitely kind of fallen back over. I think as more and more time's gone, and he's probably had more effort and screen time and push behind him and things like that. He's had the opportunities to do something and not taken them. Whereas I feel like Wheeler's had, not scraps, but he's had a small part in this Death Riders thing and capitalised it on it a million times over, in terms of what it comes, he just...
And it took him a while too. It wasn't immediate, was it? He was spinning his wheels for a long time, but once he locked in, he's locked in, he understands what works now, doesn't he, with his character and his role?
And I think he's just got, the charisma comes across with the crowd, I think he gets more heat out of the crowd, I think his work, actually, for what it needs to be, just seems like it fits better as well. So again, that's something where I'm just hoping, I hope that gets used in some way, and and then that is something that maybe then gets put into the mid card, where it's then Wheeler and Briscoe or something like that into next year, rather than do we have to go back to Daniel Garcia again and give him another shot at trying to do something? I think that especially as Mox leans more and more babyface as well, last thing they want to do is be putting Wheeler back babyface. He needs to be fucking pure heel in this shitbaggy role here, and just as mid-card guy in that role. I think there's so much legs, because how loud and how often with that crowd giving it the old "fuck you, Yuta" chants kind of thing there as well. Like, he was actively somebody that the crowd wanted to go against and wanted to boo.
Great Dominic Mysterio, mate. That's what he can be.
Oh yeah, fucking get him in there. Free Yuta.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Again, I just watch Garcia and I hate to be so pessimistic. And I think the day he joined the stable, I was like, well, this isn't going to work. Because clearly what they're doing, they just copied the homework, haven't they? Wheeler Yuta got over, and they've done it twice now. We'll just I don't think they've got more of an idea for Garcia than Wheeler got over, so we'll get him over as well. I'm not even sure there's a broader story being told with Garcia, unfortunately. It's just, well, people moan for years that he should be in the Death Riders, so let's do it now. 2 years too late, when Jericho's already gone, and we're not paying that story off anymore. It's just not going to work for him. Same way I think Hook isn't going to work, as Joe's Wheeler Yuta. It diminishing returns, isn't it? It's a copy of a copy of a copy at that point. I'm with you, though. I'd love to see Daniel Garcia find his lane at some point and make it work, and I'm open to that happening. It's probably not going to happen in his PE kit that's too big for him. Nothing around with, like I say, people who are doing...
It's not his PE kit. He forgot his PE kit and he had to borrow someone's PE kit. That's what it looks like.
Kits, yeah. Yeah, when you turn, I always mention it. I'm just scarred from it from when I was a kid, when I turned up to school one day and it was Mufti Day and I'd forgotten, and they were like, oh, you can wear your PE kit if you want. So I think I'm all right, you just look like a knobhead, don't you? That's what he looks like, unfortunately. It's a shame, but maybe he'll pull it out. But yeah, I'm with you. Fun stuff in the match, but not a huge amount to write over about. Outside the Tony Storm, which I can say, she was there. She was the standout here, and obviously you got your big babyface celebration at the end as well. So it was worth it for that.
Yeah, but again, bit of fun on the cards kind of thing. Just, I guess that's kind of like one of the things as well with this pay-per-view and its placement and stuff like that. Is like, I don't know, this type of match kind of almost lends itself a bit more to being on something here that's in between Christmas and New Year. Whereas if this match was on like Revolution or something like that, where you think like this is a serious, big, proper main, pay-per-view, you'd probably be a bit more harsh on it and think that there should be a match in its place that's had a bit more of a solid build around it and something that feels a bit more important. But doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt to have a little bit of fun, all caps sometimes.
Gotta say, going into the next match, Jamie Hayter and Chris Statlander. I'm interested in your thoughts on this one. If I was a betting man, Gareth, I reckon the answer is going to be you like this more than me. The girls worked hard. We got an AEW Women's title run from Chris Statlander that just, they never put the work in before she got the belt. People have made that argument before, and I think it's paying off here. They had an uphill battle here, it felt like. I don't think it was card placement either. I think it was actually perfectly paced coming after the fun tag. This was your opportunity. The crowd were up. They were ready to go, but they weren't ready to go for this. And I just felt like the girls just had... It was an uphill job that I don't think should be there because they're both extremely talented. They're both a couple of the better women's wrestlers in the company. And I think that was proven in the match. I think they tried, and they tried, and they tried. And I think with some help and with some big spots and with, like I say, with some hard work, I think they somewhat got the crowd there in the end. But the finish was a little bit off for me. We'll love to get into that with the weird tombstone thing they did. But I think they told a decent story too along the way that I'm sure you'll get into. But I actually think this match under-delivered, but it wasn't their fault. I think it was nothing to do with the work they were doing, nothing to do with the effort that they were putting in, nothing to do even with the placement on the card. I think it was just lack of investment, maybe, from the crowd, and lack of investment, maybe from my part as well. It even made it an uphill climb for me as well. But again, I think the women did a good enough job. But I'm ready for you to tell me you enjoyed this one more than me. But I think where we might find some agreement is these women deserve better as far as, setting this match up, and as far as, earning. It's not enough, I don't think, just to put people in a place in a card and go, there you go, there's your push. I think you have to put the work in, and I think both characters, specifically Statlander, though, have suffered from that over the last while.
Well, I hate to disappoint you, Benno, but I don't think I did love this match more than you. I don't know. I think I'm probably at a same level or even less. Like I think this was probably the thing that I enjoyed least on the entire card, like overall, and like it almost half reminded me of what's the matter? It was Wembley. It was Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné, wasn't it? Kind of thing, and like they were in there and they were doing stuff and they were working hard, as you say there, and things, but it just wasn't clicking, and like no one cared, kind of, and this just felt like, I think they did the spot where Statlander did sort of a bit like a cradle Michinoku driver, like near the end from the top rope, and that got the crowd into the match, but it was far too late into the match for it to get the crowd invested. It felt
scary spot as well.
It felt like they were invested a bit more from that point onwards, and that's where, like, I don't know, it just almost felt like it needed somebody where there was absolute crickets early on in the match to go, like, that spot we've got for later, do it now, kind of thing, or something like that, just to try and get the crowd like invested and do something to just get the crowd off the seats, because it felt like no one cared. And then I think I don't know. I think it's just I don't want to go over old ground again. We've talked plenty enough about Chris Statlander and the validity of her becoming AEW Women's World Champ at the time that she did and things like that. But I just think it feels like just tied hand in hand to that to me. Like, I just don't think people care about Chris Statlander that much, because there hasn't been enough legwork put into making you want to care about Chris Statlander that much. You never felt like you were on a journey with her to the world title, and then when she's won it, what is she as a world champion? She doesn't feel like she's got any identity as a world champion at all. And then
she's an alien or something. I don't know.
But some of the promos with her opponents are a bit back and forth. You're like where's she at with things? Like, there was a spot in this where she spat in Jamie Hayter's face, kind of thing, and I was like, oh, like, that's a bit odd, kind of thing. And I think the same with Jamie Hayter. People almost want her to be back at that level that she was, but then the work hasn't been put into putting her back to that level that she was either, sort of thing. So, again, when she was super over before her injury, Jamie Hayter, it felt like there was this organic build towards getting her where it was. It almost just feels like they've just tried to kind of like plonk her back into these positions as well, without having that crowd sort of like push behind her. So again, that just comes back to it's lack of effort in the booking, isn't it, kind of thing? It's not lack of effort from the wrestlers. And like, I think Statlander's proven that she's within this title run that she's not been good enough to then make the title run mean more, because she hasn't been able to get the crowd behind her through her work and things like that. But yeah, just all in all, it didn't feel like a match that there was anything to get my teeth into. I was sort of watching it and just getting distracted. It was like stuff's happening, they're just doing things kind of thing, but it felt like there was no rhyme or reason behind what they were doing. There was no logical thread or anything like that to it, really. So I don't know, you sort of like, if you're in a position where your world champion can't elicit a response from the crowd, then either you failed or she's failed. But like in this instance, it kind of feels a bit like they both failed, really.
Bit of both. Yeah, it's the conversation we keep having about Samoa Joe. Same thing. You put the belt on him, and it's like, I think I've been consistent in saying we'll get there when we get to the main event. But Joe will make it work, but you shouldn't put him in this position. And it was the same thing when he was the challenger for Hangman Page. Look, Joe's going to do his best to make this work. He's got the inbuilt credibility over years and years, and maybe that's the difference, that he'll make it work even though he's been put in a bad position. Unfortunately, Statlander doesn't have that, unfortunately. And it's not a slight on her. Like, to be very high-level, premium-level worker to make a bad situation like this work for you. Unfortunately, she hasn't been able to, and yeah, it's just, that's what we're seeing the fruits of, really, there. But yeah, it was a disappointing one for me, really, and just, again, said a lot about, like I say, this title run, and again, this pay-per-view building, in some regards, outside of the, not easy to do, but, the slotted in nature of the Continental Classic that we've had issues with over the last while. But there we go. That one was there, and like I say, the finish was, like I say, I think they were selling on the weird tombstone at the end, but either way, it was kind of a bit of a mercy killing for the match as we got out of there, and we went into the first of our, I guess we can call it, double main event, the Continental Classic final here, which again, I do need to note, we had Tony Schiavone in full, is this the best show we've ever seen, guys, mode, and it's like, it's definitely not, Tony, and we'll get into that at the end, but anywho, and yeah, as a match, obviously, it made sense, booking point of view, to get Moxley, it's obviously to this position, as far as telling his story. A card that as the heel made sense in practice, but I don't know, I feel to me this was a bit of not an expose of a card of the worker in 2025, but to be honest, as good as Kyle was in this same position early in the card, I just think Okada was a bit worse at being Kyle in this match. I don't know if that's a controversial take. There were still good moments for Moxley in the match. Obviously, we're going to get to the post-match, which is the biggest moment, because they still, told the story really well, but just didn't really feel like they had much juice in this one until they got to the near falls. Moxley had to really, really milk it. It was shall eyes aplenty by the last 5 minutes of this one, just to try and pull something out of it and pull some drama into him, hitting the Death Riders. But unfortunately for how invested we all are in the Moxley story, it didn't necessarily feel like the crowd was invested in the match. And I think this is one where it's the opposite. I think the story was absolutely there. I think Okada is the, incumbent, whatever we think about the stupid belt stuff, which we can get into, is, two-time Continental, Classic winner, is a heel who had a big win earlier on the show. It meant something for him to be here in this final and to finally be vanquished. It fucking meant a lot, and it was through Moxley's great work in the promos and the previous match for Moxley to get the big win here. So I feel like everything was set up for this to be a great final, and I think it was the work that let them down here. And I feel like I've got to put the blame in Okada's box, because he was the difference between this and the earlier match. But I don't know. Hopefully I'm poisoning the water too much. What say you? You're in agreement, and maybe we can talk about it separately from obviously the post match, and we can get into the tournament as a whole for Mox. But as a match, didn't really work for me. This is unfortunate, and this was another big disappointment on the night, sadly.
Yeah, I thought it was like a strange match. Like, I mean, logically, a lot of the way that it was set up should have worked, and kind of did work for what it needed to do. I think the slow, methodical start with like Okada, almost just taking his time and just attacking the knee and or the leg, and like, just working on that in various different ways and stuff. Like, of course, that's going to be the story of the match with the way that everything's been set up, and Mox did a good job on the sell and things like that early on, and it did feel like, but it just feel like the crowd weren't quite sort of like into that, really. They, but I think they woke the crowd up a bit in the middle, but I think what was strange was I felt they just lost the crowd again in the run to the finish, and like, I was thinking, how can you how can you lose? How can you kind of almost peak in the middle a little bit? With some of the stuff there where I think they had I think you had that sort of like run there where Mox had kind of like got his oak spot in and things and bending the middle finger, he hit a big lariat and then he put the figure 4 on and stuff, and the crowd sort of rallied and got behind him at that point. Then you had like when Okada then like took control back with the sort of the Tanahashi tribute spots with the couple of dragon screws and then the Texas Cloverleaf and things, and Mox getting to the rope and stuff. The crowd seemed like they were up there, and then Mox hit that Gotch style pile driver after that, and it felt like it was sort of building to this sort of big plateau there. But yeah, then as it kind of like sort of the build towards the finish there, where there was a sort of the dueling strikes thing that went on, and Mox fighting Spirit sort of up from the drop kick, and eating the Rainmaker into the paradigm shift and stuff. Like it just, I don't know, it was almost like stuff on paper that you think this should work kind of thing, but it sort of took, I don't know, it just took the crowd sort of like right out of it the other way. And then when I think that Mox, kick out with sort of fighting Spirit off the drop kick, and then Okada's kick out at 1 and things, the crowd just weren't there for them. They should have been right there, palm of their hand, and they weren't. And whether it was fatigue from the show as a whole, whether it was just that middle bit needed a bit more to it kind of thing, worked at a bit more tempo or something like that to maintain them. Did they get told in the match, actually, we only want to go 4 hours today here and you need to knock 5 minutes out of this or something like that, possibly in that middle section, and then they went to the end there, like maybe that affected it as well. Like it was a good match that I thought, I've written like 3.5 stars, or 3.25 to 3.5 stars for me there, but really based on the match that had happened earlier in the night with Mox and Fletcher, and based when you're looking at it and going, right, this is the final. We know Okada's got more in the tank because of the way that he worked with Takeshita. Okada Moxley should go out there and have something better than this. Did feel like a bit of a disappointment to be honest overall, and I think the crowd, the lack of crowd investment towards the end felt like maybe the big thing that pulled it down, really, which they were there at other points in the night.
In hindsight, could you have done it another route? Could have Kyle and Moxley been the final? Would it have been a better pick? I guess there's no way to do that, and then also get you a Takeshita match out of it. But I mean, clearly there was a gulfing difference for me between the work. For everything you said earlier about Kyle and how much better he's got as a heel and how he understands his role and works these matches, like I think everything he did well. I think Okada just did an inferior version of it. I think it is. The blame is on the work on this one. It's not the storytelling. It's not the outcome. I don't think it's even investment in the outcome. Like I'm going to have some criticism about like what was actually at stake here, but like Moxley made you forget it. Moxley made you forget that we're fighting over one of 2 belts that we haven't seen in 9 months, but we're supposed to care about now for this tournament. He made it feel like this tournament was life or death with his individual story. So all the pieces were there for it to work, and maybe some blame on Moxley's side. Maybe it was a clash between the two of them as far as pacing goes. But I think what we can agree on is it wasn't it, unfortunately, and it was a bit of a letdown. And again, Moxley did his best as far as selling it as a big moment. We got like the big finish. He treated it like he'd won the main event of, I'm not going to say WrestleMania, All In, and won the AEW World title. He didn't, he treated getting that Continental belt, which again, like I said, it's just. It's just weird that like they literally posted a photo on the Twitter of Okada backstage all depressed with his other belt, and it's like he's only had one belt this entire time. Now the winner gets a belt and the loser gets a belt. Like there's a meme in there somewhere. You get a belt, and everyone's happy at the end of it. But Mox did such a good job at conveying that it meant something, that it worked. But I don't know what you made of the post-match promo. I did think it was a bit weird. Like Moxley doing a whole like putting over the locker room promo, AEW rah-rah promo from the guy that tried to kill the entire company. I think, again, speaking of the commentary, I think we get another greatest night in our sport moment from Tony Schiavone in a moment before the main event. But Brian was great here at picking him up on that and kind of going, oh yeah, isn't that weird that it's Moxley saying that? I guess this is the AEW we always wanted to see. And I guess through the Continental Classic and the great struggles, he's gotten that now and he's happy. It's like, I think Mox kind of forgot that in his promo. Mox felt like he was doing, those promos at the end of a house show, one of those promos when Dynamite's got off the air, and it's like, isn't AEW the best? We've got the hardest working locker room in all of sports. Like, it felt like one of those, and part of me thought, like, is a turn coming? Like, part of me thought, well, okay, he's doing that, and maybe it comes on Dynamite, maybe this gets dated very quickly, and like Death Riders use that as a reason to turn him. Like, hang on, what are you saying? You're putting over the locker room and the roster? Like, what are you doing? And they batter him, but outside of maybe one little look we got there from Marina, it didn't feel like that was coming either. It just felt a little bit like maybe Moxley got too swept up in the moment, but I don't know. What was your read on it? Maybe it was different than mine.
I felt like it was absolutely as weird as fuck, and I was thinking, I know that some of Moxley's stuff in recent weeks has inched a bit more babyface, but not this far. And I know that on the night in both matches, he worked as the babyface in both matches, but not this far, kind of. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like, where the fuck has this come from? Like, when I was listening, and I was thinking, it just felt so spectacularly out of place. It just felt totally wrong for every part about it. The belt that's been hidden away, and then the belt that I'm now really waving up, the lesser belt I'm now really waving up, and I'm really delighted to have this other lesser belt kind of thing that I'm now, happy to put on my waist on the top rope and have, majority of the Death Riders there. Like you say, you got the little look off Marina, and she's probably the one who, when he has like lost some of these matches and things in recent weeks or months, she's been the one who's almost had that look in her eyes of like, hang about, you're a bit of a false prophet here, sort of thing for where you're at. And the others just.
And this is where they bin bag Brian, isn't it? So I was thinking, like, is she gonna pull like a fucking Tesco bag out of her back pocket and they're gonna get him? Like, that would make sense, I suppose. But again, unless it happens.
Claudio beat him in the tournament, didn't he? He did, didn't he? Yeah, I'm not making that up. Yeah, no,
I told that story.
So I'm thinking, like that's, whether it's, again, like you say, could happen on Dynamite sort of thing. But to me, this should then be like the touch paper for the Death Riders to turn on, because they can't all just suddenly be happy clappy kind of thing. And we've all been anticipating the turn on Mox since he lost the belt and everything, everything like that. If we get through another Dynamite there where there's just a fucking Death Rider 6-man tag or something like that, and everyone's, go along, and then we have a promo with them all stood in the back and things like that, then you'd be like, hang about, this is, no, you need to pull the trigger on something here, because this has been stretching far too far, and, it's, I don't know, it just, it really kind of like lost me, lost me a lot, having not been necessarily been invested in the match, just that side of things. And then the fact that he won it because of the sort of the rules of the Continental Classics, like how many matches did he win as AEW World Champion because of the Death Riders kind of thing? And then so he's won this whole tournament, beating the best on his own merits, kind of. So again, that's like proper, I did it without you kind of like stuff, despite not beating Claudio in it as well. So there is a natural story there. It felt like it should have happened there in the moment. Like, it should have been like, fuck you kind of thing. Like, if he's talking like that, the Death Rider's been like, what are you talking about? This is contrary to everything that we've been trying to achieve and kayfabe, our meetings and training and everything that we've been trying to do to,
Tony Khan in the post-show presser was putting him over as well. Like, and I mean, he made them kayfabe, so I guess like he's created his own problem here. But he's on there going like, "Oh, Moxley, he just works so hard, and he wrestled injured in the first part of the year, and he's the only one other than me that's been at every show this year." And it's like, we're gonna get there. And like, the story probably deserves to make that the end place, but it did feel like they maybe jumped a chapter a little bit. And again, I am open to episodic storytelling where it happens on Dynamite and we go, oh, the seeds of it were placed with Moxley doing that rah-rah speech, but I didn't get it, like you, other than Marina. I didn't get it from the other characters that was coming, like there's some kind of turn coming, and they've been pretty, as far as like the backstage promos and stuff, like it's written all over their faces, isn't it, not being happy with Mox. So if that was the direction and they knew that was the direction, you think a couple of them would have sold it a little bit more as well. But yeah, bizarre, I'm with you on it, just absolutely just a bizarre way to kind of end it. And like, yeah, there we go. And as the chat is saying there, again, the belt stuff, I can't separate myself from either. Like, I just don't understand why Moxley hasn't got the unified title now, and why we now have a national title and an international title. So good luck at that, everybody who's got a podcast trying to talk about these matches. But like, yeah, like, for all like the 2 steps forward that I think this tournament was in a lot of ways, especially for Mox, feels like there's a couple of steps backwards as well.
And from that belt point of view, like I think it was around this point in the show that I was thinking, like, imagine if I was just watching this show like with my dad or something like that, who doesn't like So it's like seeing that first match where Okada's come out with, he's got one belt on, and the other one that he's got is like up on that plinth there, kind of thing, for somebody to to win later in the night. So he's got one on. There's another one over there. He's taken on Takeshita, who's coming out with his New Japan title on there. We then move into the other matches there, where we've got like the FTR coming out with their belts. We then get the Babes of Wrath coming out with their belts, who are up against Mercedes Moné, who's got all her belts, and Athena as well. You then move on like further through the night, and you've got the 8-man tag, and you've got Mark Briscoe coming out with his belt, and then Chris Statlander's out with her belts, kind of thing. And then you've got Okada, who's lost a belt but he's still got a belt backstage, and John Moxley's now got a belt, and that's then you go into, and now this is the big match of the evening, and there's these 4 guys here for the AEW World Title. And I was just like it just felt like you've just, without even, in one show, it felt like when you got to that main event, I thought, like, why does this title matter? kind of thing. Like, the whole show's been built up around these other titles that are less than, that actually doesn't even really matter that much, that one guy's lost because he's already got another one anyway. And now these 4 are fighting for the big belt, kind of thing. But is it? It's something that I thought they were consolidating this year. I thought it was something that was I mean, you had Ricochet on the pre-show with his belt, kind of, I thought it was something that they'd recognised and worked on this year. But it's, if anything,
literally made it worse.
It's worse than ever. Now, this should. I mean, again, we'll have said this on the show this time last year. We'll have said it on the show this time 2 years ago. It should be a fucking trophy and a title shot, shouldn't it? Like, it's, and they've clearly gone, well, we don't just want to replicate the G1 and just totally steal from it 100% kind of thing, but there's a reason why the G1 works, because it fucking makes sense kind of thing as to what you get out of it at the back end of it. And this,
and even they've dropped the title shot side, but I'd just take the belt. Like the trophy. The trophy would be enough. That would be enough. Just give me that. Like, make that mean something. Because again, the work of the guys in the tournament made if anything, it was despite all that, Moxley made it worth something, didn't it? This MacGuffin of this belt, like, unfortunately, was what was at stake, but he made it more important than the belt, and you could attach that symbolism to this beautiful big trophy or something like that. But it's like, even with the Owen Hart, like, there's 2 belts for that as well, isn't it? Tony just loves belts. He's a fucking belt mark, and he just loves them. He's been asked about it, and he's just like, well, I like having stakes. And it's like, but don't you understand, Tony? You can't, the more you add, the less stakes in each individually add. But to him, it's more stakes, it's more belts at stake. And like you say, now literally it's like, again, this one belt has created 3, and now we've got obviously the national title to go with it as well. It's insanity, but never going to end. It is the life of operating within Tony Khan's brain, which is watching AEW, and that's just the way he's always going to book.
More stakes. Story of my dinner times in 2026.
There's the title for this one. If I give it one, if I don't just call it review. More stakes. There we go. Speaking of stakes, we have our main event here of the AEW World Title 4-way match, which again, bit of a surprise. Obviously coming out of the booking in December. And obviously the 4 men here, I don't know, I feel like we can start with the entrances here. It couldn't be more defined by their entrances. And again, I don't like being negative on AEW pay-per-view review. There's usually there's like a wall of positivity that surrounds these reviews, don't they, Gareth? Like, we're negative ourselves for most of the month. And when it comes to AEW pay-per-views, because match is good and because we love AEW, like, we're always positive, but I can't talk positively about a lot of this stuff. And this main event, like, again, I'm never going to be high on 4-ways, but the way we got here, I've been on tape as talking about, and I don't know, I felt it in the entrances, like, just having fucking Swerve come out in his Green Lantern fan outfit. Like, there just should be a moratorium, shouldn't there, on like that. Again, I said it, I think on the Joe show, like, I like wrestlers being marks themselves works out well a lot of the time. Look at Bret Hart, no offense, Gareth. Like, I think it's good, when wrestlers take themselves seriously or, whatever. I think Swerve, you get positives and you get negatives, and that's one of the negatives you get from the most dangerous man in AEW, as he dresses up as a character that Hurricane Helms once played. We have a cooled off and definitely undermined at this point. We've got to talk about it with the booking come out of it. Hangman Page, I felt like it was the lack of pop for him coming out was notable. We have MJF, of course, getting the weird entrance with the women brushing him and the big fucking flag. And of course, he gets the big pomp and circumstance. More on that in a little while. He basically was saying to camera, it's like those old G1s where Anderson and Gallows would just say to camera, yeah, we're going over tonight. Or was it the Bucks? Like, yeah, we're going over tonight. And then they'd win. Like, that's pretty much what he said to camera there. So you had that element of it. And then, of course, you had an analogy that I'm starting to warm to. The Big Joe coming out, who will be back in the Trios division near you, coming out of this pay-per-view as your World Heavyweight Champion. But yeah, what have you made of the build to this one before we get to the match? Because it's a four-way. What is there really to get into in a match? And obviously we can talk the outcome of it. But yeah, what a bizarre situation. We went into World's End and we come out of World's End with this AEW World Title scene.
Well, I mean, was it on a pre-show? I've definitely talked on air, haven't I, about like that fucking promo. I can't remember if
it was last week's pre-show.
Yeah. Like that was MJF cutting the legs off Swerve, like there, and this was Swerve cutting the legs off Swerve, like immediately coming out looking like the biggest geek in the world when he's put all that fucking time and energy to making himself look like a massive hard bastard. Like now in the last 2 weeks he's had the fucking P Diddy chance at him, and now he's coming out in his little fucking Green Lantern fancy dress outfit. Like I just like come and like you often say this about more so about Swerve's moveset, don't you? That like he can't get the indie out of him or something like that, or he can't get out of the way of himself with things. And that as soon as I saw that, I thought Ben will be like saying here, just that's Swerve being Swerve kind of thing. He can't put himself in the headspace of main event top guy. Like imagine Steve Austin coming out in fucking the Green Lantern outfit or something. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like if you're trying to position yourself as top guy, like within the company or within the business, you don't do fucking cosplay, do you? That's
especially when you're losing. Like I always feel like if you were the world champ, because I think Osprey's done it and kind of gotten away with it. I feel like if you Kenny's done it. If you've got the belt and you're the champion and you're walking out, I almost feel like we'd almost forgive it. We'd always kind of, you fucking nerd, but you shouldn't have. It's even worse, isn't it, when he's just this loser in this four-way. He's just like, you said there about the MJF promo. I actually thought it was even worse. The follow-up stuff on Dynamite where him and Hangman were like, tying MJF down and cutting their own versions of the promo with him, like I think Ibu said it, that was basically a receipt. None of that was to do with selling this pay per view. It was just purely them getting the fucking licks back in. Like everything about the last few weeks is just Swerve's one where again you say that like he does undermine himself, but he also, unlike 99% of wrestlers, has put himself in the position to be a main eventer. There's loads that we laud him for, that he does well, that he's gotten bigger. He feels like a main event act most of the time, but you're right, he undermines himself. There's always that one step back. There's always just that part of him that's like, well, I'm not dropping any indie moves because that's what got me to the dance. And it's like, someone needs to have a word with him. Someone needs to look at that outfit and go, not tonight, mate. Maybe when you're 6 months into a world title reign and everyone will forget it by the next month. Not tonight.
Yeah, maybe if it's Halloween Havoc or something like that, maybe, mate.
Yeah.
And I think sort of some of the Osprey stuff that you say there, like, I feel like they're just a bit more in fitting with the sort of gear that he normally wears and stuff like that. They almost feel like an extension to the type of big robes that he normally wears, and the different like intricacies that he's got in his his tights and things like that. This was just immediately massively jarring. But then when you then had you had the MJF entrance and he emerged off through the floor like Cody kind of thing up the little thing, and then the crowd sort of popped for him a bit. I was like,
loves that.
And I look and he's got the gold on, and I was just like, oh God, that's ominous that he's wearing gold and he's got really shiny gold boots on here and stuff. That immediately was like, just making me think he's winning the belt here. I think Andy Ogden had put the odds in our chat as well, earlier on in the night or the day before or something like that as well, which always the bookies never get it far wrong to this. So I was already dreading the idea that he was going to win it. That sort of cemented it to me. But then if we then just like step into the match and you just, for everything that I like can't stand about MJF and for the things that Swerve just can't get right about himself as a main event act, there was like, I don't know, it's the first part of the match that I've actually made notes on. I can't even remember if it was right at the start or it was fine to that, but it's like where MJF and Swerve are trading the cocks to the face spot kind of thing, and you're like, come on, it's the main event kind of thing, and it's like, you're like why is
and the
that?
Commentary it just said MJF shouldn't be doing that. It's a world title match, and I was like, oh, that works for MJF's character. Only for as they're in the middle of saying it, Swerve to do it back to him. I was like, oh man, why'd you do that? Clearly an MJF idea.
I was just immediately just like, oh god, this fucking man's worst tendencies are now bleeding back into the main event picture here, which, I'm not happy to see MJF back. I'm, spoiler for the end, I'm not happy to see him like holding the belt. I don't want him in the mix of these characters that have been telling good storylines this year and getting you invested at the main event level and getting Hangman to feel more of a main eventer and getting Swerve to feel more of a main eventer and making you think about Ospreay coming back from injury and mixing it at that level and Kyle Fletcher elevating himself to be operating at that level and things like that. And just throughout this match, you just had your little sprinklings of just MJF spots here that I was just like, just really sort of like, pulling me down. And then like the match itself, like just as a whole, just wasn't very good, was it? Like it's like,
always never are they? That's the thing. They're never going to be good. No, that's just it's kind of a given, isn't it?
And like, so a point I'll say ad nauseum. I probably say it on every show. I'm always looking at things, and you're like, I'm always sort of reflecting on it afterwards, and I'm going like, well, who's better because of this? Like, who's coming out of this match better than they were from the moment they went in? Well, Swerve's definitely not going into it better than he was like a month ago before the build to this thing started. Hangman Page isn't. Like, Samoa Joe's done a perfectly fine job of, fulfilling the role that he needed to do for this transition kind of thing. But on the back of this, talk about people coming to the belts. Well, he already had another belt on his shoulder anyway when he came to the ring, because he came to the ring with two. He's got his 6-man belts there, so he's going to be going right back into that territory as well there. So Joe's just basically going back to the level that he was, and now AEW's got MJF on top, and you're like, so I don't think AEW's come out of it better. Their sort of main event baby faces feel less than, and then the world champion is, somebody who we know how well that run went last time. So like, fuck, like it's
so deflating, isn't it? Not even from a heel point of view. It's just you laid it out there. It's deflating from like a booking point of view. Like again, I've got nothing more to add to the match than you said. Like the few cutesy 4-way spots in there. I was like, oh, isn't that good? Joe was hitting his knee, and now he's taking someone out on the way, and there was a couple of creative spots like that in there, but there really wasn't much meat on the bone, and it was relatively short as well for that type of match. But like even like the closing stretch of it, having the fucking Joe Riders come out and having Hook have any impact at all on the AEW World Title scene, just it continues to get it becomes a worse and worse decision the more you see it. The fact that is the factor that takes Hangman out of this, just like lessens him. Like I'd be more harsh on it. I think Swerve will recover. Swerve will be fine. I think Swerve's at a certain level now, and it's okay, even when he does shoot himself in the foot sometimes. I think Hangman will be okay too. But like he is, to your point, it's such a worse position than he was only a month ago. And I know he's the world champion then, so I guess he would by its nature be in a lesser position. But like, it looks to me like the money program for Hangman coming out of this is with Hook. Like that's where Hangman is in the grand scheme of things. And you can't, again, the crowd weren't great, and maybe that's part of the problem of this end of the pay-per-view. But like, they didn't seem to be living and dying with Hangman like they usually would. It did feel like he'd lost a step, and I wouldn't blame the man if personally it felt like he'd lost a little bit of a step, and maybe his appetite to go through the motions of whatever this 4-way was supposed to be. It was probably disappointing to him personally, like knowing what could have been. I feel like he gave the game away in that terrible segment in Manchester that he really did want to have title defenses against all these other guys, and it was stripped from him, and now he is fucking feuding with Hook. Like, he feels lesser than coming out of it. And yeah, you're totally right. With Samoa Joe, he will be back to the Trios division. But now, just as a comic heel that he's become. Just for it's situational, really, isn't it? It was just for the sake of getting through this little booking run. Fuck it, Joe, you can be a heel, and guess what? You're a cowardly heel now. No, not like Moxley, completely different character, honestly, than Moxley. Yeah, you have a load of goons like Moxley, and yeah, you're running a stable like Moxley, but you're not John Moxley. He basically became John Moxley for the last couple of months, and now he's gonna have to presumably keep that going. But as trios champion, because he's not gonna have a fucking sniff for the AEW World title again, unless they somehow turn him babyface against MJF coming up as well. And like you say, MJF's the only one who benefits from this because it's fucking MJF coming back and winning the world title, as I've talked about ad nauseum on our shows over the last while, to a pop. Like everything about it, the promo in Manchester, even the stuff last week I said with Swerve and Hangman, and then here, at the end of it, like he gets his little cheap pop and he gets to be world champion again. Like you say, we saw how it went last time, and if it's a means to an end to get the belt back to Swerve or Hangman or to give Ospreay a big opponent for All In next year. I've seen that stipulated as well. Maybe I'll be forgiven of it in a couple of months, but I'm not forgiven of it. And I think history has proven us right on this last little stretch of booking of the world title. Like, did Samoa Joe ever? And again, we're not comparing the two wrestlers. I promise you, I would never do that. But Matty called him the Big Joe because they'd often do that with Samoa with Big Show. They'd just make him he's the world champion. Fuck it, we're doing it so that we can transition it to another person. I don't think you even needed to do that with Joe here. I feel like if you're gonna have Hangman lose the belt, if he'd have lost it in a 4-way like this, I wouldn't have loved it, but I don't think it would be any more underwhelming than him losing it to Joe. And I just don't see why Joe needed to be in the mix to get the belt back to MJF. Like, all of it makes less sense coming out of it more than more sense. And like I say, we all need to be excited now for 2026, presumably being the year of MJF. All of it just defies belief for me that we've gotten here from what looked like we were hopefully getting a longer Hangman reign.
And fundamentally, a fundamental problem with it is MJF is he's not a full heel, and he doesn't want to be a full heel kind of thing. He wants to lean in,
but he's fucking not, is he?
He wants to lean into those tendencies. He wants them crowd pops, and the crowd are going to pop for him, and that doesn't help Swerve, and it doesn't help Hangman. If anything, Joe was better because Joe wasn't. Joe was at least 95% of the crowd are booing Joe. They're against Joe because he was being a proper heel guy. In that environment. For the majority part there with like John Moxley. He was a heel. He was whether it was good heat or bad heat for a lot of the run kind of thing. People didn't want him to have the belt. They wanted the baby faces to get the better of him. That is like what it should be. MJF he's going to try and toe that line in the middle. There he's not going to go to that extremity, the other end, which it's not good for.
Well, he'd say us saying this is heat, wouldn't he? He'd say us being mad about it. It's like, well, there you go. Yeah. Cry about it. That's heat. That's modern heat in 2026.
Yeah, it's not though, is it? It's just sort of like unsatisfying disappointment, really, kind of thing. So it's like it's a bit more. It's sort of change the channel heat. Not I want to see somebody get the better of you in a kayfabe environment like heat sort of thing. Like it just doesn't it doesn't work the same level. So and that's just the way that I just came out of this. Like I largely enjoyed this pay-per-view. I didn't come through it with the Tony Schiavone feeling on it that it was the greatest show that's ever happened in the history of all men kind of thing. But I came away from it thinking like, yeah, I have largely enjoyed that show. There was some stuff that didn't need to be on there, but it was fun enough or it was entertaining enough. Couple of high spot matches there that I really like and enjoyed. But at the end of this, I just felt a bit like sort of unsatisfying outcome, average match, kind of like pay-per-view felt like it ended a bit flat, like there wasn't necessarily the same investment there and things, and I was just like, I was sort of riding a wave of general positivity up to that point. I just felt a bit deflated at the end, and I was sort of like, at least I've got a strong viewpoint to go on the podcast and have a bit of a moan kind of thing on that perspective. But I think something that I'd always kind of like say about myself in these scenarios is that I'd kind of at least kind of look at the situation and evaluate it and think to myself, all right, well, if I am going to take a step back and think about how this can get better or what might be there around the corner, I'm even looking at this and I'm like, well, from a world title picture point of view, I just don't know. My mind is like, it's in that Takeshita Okada area and kind of, that seems, more important and more, got a bit more kind of legs in it, that you've got a bit of interest in. The rise of Kyle Fletcher, who he's not going to be getting into the world title picture anytime soon. Well, MJF's got the belt, is he? Because it's because he's a proper heel. He's a real actual heel. There as well. So presumably, his attentions are going to be diverted into other areas as well. And then the two sort of baby faces in Swerve and Hangman, who've been largely a lot of the best stuff about the year, again, they sort of feel like they've been edged totally to one side. And had a lot of the good shine that they both had, both Hangman from the world title run and then Swerve from the comeback and things, that's been knocked away either, really. So I'm really struggling with it.
Disappointing show, altogether. Like I said, we don't come on here to want to be negative, maybe sometimes, but definitely not when it comes to the AEW pay-per-view reviews. Especially not now, this time of year, between Christmas and New Year. I wanted to end the year on a high, but yeah. I mean, is it fair to say that I don't know if it's the worst AEW pay-per-view of the year? I'd have to give that a proper thought for the crappies, but the most deflated I felt coming out of AEW. Maybe Revolution, actually, or maybe it was before Revolution, earlier in the year, there was a couple of Dynamites I felt particularly bad about as well. But yeah, it's one where you can't even point at it, can you? This pay-per-view and go, but at least the matches, really, outside of Kyle and Moxley, was there anything that stood up to the usual AEW level? And that's, again, the story of this pay-per-view for me, in a year where we pretty much got a pay-per-view every month outside of the very start of the year. It is going to be diminishing returns, isn't it? I think that hit rate of AEW pay-per-views was eventually going to, no pun intended, take a hit like this. And yeah, it feels like a little bit like chickens coming home to roost there, because it is probably maybe the weakest show of the year. Isn't unfair. I think that's probably what this is coming out of it, looking up and down the card, and especially that mid period. And like I say, a deflating end and a weird end to the Continental Classic on top of it as well. Couldn't save it either. Where normally you might have got a big Ospreay match at the end of the show or something big with Hangman or Swerve in a different scenario. We didn't even have that really, did we? So yeah, probably the worst combination of a pay-per-view we've had from AEW at a time where, like I say, they got the timing right, they got the structure of the show right. It was, the content for me on this one, unfortunately.
Maybe there's a load of MJF fans out there who are made up and they're all excited for 2026. So maybe it does just boil down to me not being a fan of,
You don't want to be on that ready. That is, yeah.
MJF, but yeah, that's not a discussion I want to be any part of. Yeah, but I think it's as well. It's because it was the last pay-per-view before this as well, wasn't it? Where the Joe surprise win happened, kind of thing, and we're sort of you were left with at the end of that, you were left with the what really kind of thing, and that was a bit of a bad negative taste in the mouth at the end of a pay-per-view as well, sort of thing as well. So I feel like I've now gone through two pay-per-views in a row there, where at the end I've been a bit really, this is the direction we're going in, which. Yeah, we were very much past that kind of thing where it felt like everything was all, all tides were pulling in the same direction towards something, a lot more well thought out and positive. And it definitely feels a bit kind of like, one step forward, two steps back as we end the year.
It's made the narrative very different, isn't it? We should have done the graphics last week because we would have been AEW started the year terribly, but ended fantastically. It's they started the year terribly, and then it got great, and then now we're really not sure. It's a tougher narrative to get into, isn't it? But disappointing.
But there you go. Matt is OCD. It's right. We've got a full 12 months to make our judgments on.
WWE still aren't winning promotion of the year, Matthew. It's not happening. And Trips ain't getting Booker of the year despite all this, but. There we go. More on that on the graphics. There you go. Great little teaser for that, really. But yeah, unless you've got more on the pay-per-view to say, there wasn't much news coming out of the pay-per-view, like I say, outside of a couple of quotables from Tony Khan. He was pushed on Cody Rhodes on an interview he did today as well on Cody, saying that he felt disrespected when he left AEW. Tony saying that he doesn't necessarily agree that's the case, but I'm sure Cody said a lot of other nice things in his interviews. He's learned the PR way, unfortunately, and that makes those headlines a little less interesting. But unless you've got anything more on AEW, there's a couple of news notes I was going to mention. I know you haven't got huge takes on it. Obviously, I think the Dave Meltzer overhyped story that came out yesterday. I imagine I'll talk about it more on another forthcoming show, but worth referencing. Obviously, in fairness, the great reporting that the Brandon Thurston has done on obviously the Vince McMahon shareholder slash WWE lawsuit going on, and obviously the Endeavor conspiracy that he's very well mapped out in this lovely graphic they've got over at postwrestling.com. Like, wanted to reference it quickly because I did get something out of the story. I think it's one of those where I think it's easy to roll your eyes and go, well, we all knew that. We all knew Vince was in creative, but it's just good. I think it's good to have the receipts in a lot of ways with the story that's now out there. It's good to at least have it that you can hold in front of and I'm not talking about Matty, some of the WWE defenders' faces and go, see, we were right at the time. I mean, it's something. Some of the bits and pieces that have come out of this, obviously, that the Vince was very much involved in creative in 2023. Something we all believed, but didn't have concrete proof of. Obviously, there's text messages that do show that Vince McMahon was very much a part of. A Meltzer doing follow-up reporting today, saying it was very much a part of deciding that Roman Reigns should beat Cody Rhodes. And I feel like we were saying it on the pay-per-view review at the time. It felt a little bit like it had Vince McMahon's fingerprints all over it. And small Paul was very much being overruled at the time of what some would argue is his strongest booking might have been. I thought the stuff with Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan meeting with Vince McMahon and obviously with become TKO, the Endeavor side, was interesting. Kind of blows outside the narrative of Stephanie left the board because she must have been mad at Vince McMahon coming back. I mean, I think we probably need to leave that narrative in 2023 as well. And I think also obviously there's clearly enough of a trail to make it feel likely that the shareholders and the pension people are going to win this lawsuit going forward. But as I've heard, I think Pollock say, and obviously Brandon Thurston himself, no exact smoking gun in here, just some interesting receipts in here that kind of prove that us and the other podcasters, Gareth, were right all along about what was going on behind the scenes in WWE, and that obviously Vince McMahon, the headline of this, was always coming back, and it feels like, as the lawsuit alleges, the TKO side knew that was coming, and literally the day that Vince announced his retirement from WWE, and we had all those thank you Vince chances on SmackDown. The texts were already in motion backstage with Ari Emanuel and the lads saying that Vince was going to be taking 9 months off and then he's going to be back. And he couldn't even last the 9 months, Gareth. It was less than 6 months later that he's wormed his way back in. But yeah, it's the story that we all kind of knew that happened, but being put out there in black and white by Brandon Thurston in this reporting.
Yeah, I think when I read it, I sort of like read over the article once, and it was just like, Vince McMahon trying to put himself in the best possible position on a personal level, and then Vince McMahon still having a relationship with all these other utter cunts at this absolute senior business level who maintaining some element of a relationship there, and Vince McMahon not being able to kind of keep his fingerprints off the booking of something that is obviously been involved with for the time. It's like you say, no shit Sherlock kind of thing, but it's like you say, at least it's there in black and white. And if anything, it just kind of further reaffirms my expectations that he I don't care what happens, he will be back in some capacity at some time in the future, because those relationships at that time were clearly strong enough to put that element in place. So it just sort of just made me feel on my not watching of WWE felt like yes, I'll sit up on my moral high ground perch and be proven very, very right further down the line, and give myself a big gold star for not buying into it, because there's not a chance that he's not going to be involved in some capacity in the future. If already, not, continuing to pull certain strings on a day-to-day basis at certain levels.
And even when he's not there, he's got his fucking avatars like your Bruce Pritchard, because Bruce Pritchard obviously was brought back around the time of 2023, and it was always the rumor that he was literally just there to be, I think Ronda Rousey said it, didn't she? She outright said, no, Bruce Pritchard's just doing all of Vince's bidding. That's what's happening. How's no one reporting on this? And I'm like, it's become to be the case. And I think Bruce Pritchard's even outright saying it as podcast. He got brought back because he spoke Vince. It was always there. If Vince wasn't there, Bruce was there. And again, yeah, Vince, did he ever really leave until he eventually somewhat left? No, he did not. And yeah, I share that same thought. That it just makes me think that, and again, that's what part of the positive of getting this reporting out in the light is that hopefully, being out there and those text messages being out there and getting to see screen grabs of fucking Vince and Ari Emanuel going back and forth about TikTok. I'd hate to see Vince McMahon's fucking TikTok algorithm, but sharing links with each other, trying to, woo him by getting him Bill Bear concert tickets and such like that. Like crazy to kind of see in black and white, but maybe that, and obviously, hopefully, them losing a few $100,000 in this lawsuit, it's not going to change the merger, and we're not going to go back in time, but at least it kind of proves that, all those stockholders and the pension people and all of them were right all along. They didn't take the best bid. They took the bid that allowed Vince to be put back in power, and I think that's mostly laid out in this story, but I imagine we'll get more as the days go on, but I did want to reference it. I'm sure once we have JP back, I'm sure JP will have big takes on it as well. We'll talk it in more detail as the month goes on. Other quick news notes I wanted to mention. Apparently, speaking of knobheads, worming the way back in. Apparently, Chris Jericho is planned to be back in WWE. His AEW contract runs out at the close of December. Happy New Year! I think this is probably a news story. I think you'll welcome, Gareth. If obviously the rumors do become true, and they will be able to debut him on the January 5th Raw on Netflix show. Coming up, or the Royal Rumble. I hope it's Raw on Netflix because I kind of want to enjoy the Royal Rumble and not have it ruined by this knobhead coming out in Saudi Arabia. But yeah, there we go. Probably the landed spot we all expected, and obviously, nobody's saying it from the AEW side, and clearly Jericho's not convinced that it's time to stick around in AEW, that he's very much going back where his bread was buttered in AEW. I think is a story in WWE is a story in itself that we've gotten to this point, but it all feels very inevitable right now.
Good, because in a world where we're finishing an AEW pay-per-view feeling a bit negative and disappointed, like if I have to live in a world where I've got to have MJF at the top of the show. Then, small mercies if I don't have to have the overhanging threat of Chris Jericho potentially turning up on my TV again at any point soon. So yeah, get him into WWE and let him stink up their product a bit more, and let him ruin what they're trying to do at the top end of their card as well by getting him involved there, because zero fucks given, I'm sure, from anybody that Jericho is going to be turning up there, and probably not as big a coup as Jericho thinks it is in his own mind in 2026.
For sure. And like I say, outside that, there wasn't much other news going on. A couple of New Japan contracts ended at the end of the year. David Finlay being chief among the people whose contracts are up. Drilla Maloney being another one in there too. And obviously, we've also got on top of that, obviously, Clark Connors, his contract is up as well. Do you see any of these people landing anywhere? Clark Connors is one. I feel like he made remember that Forbidden Door? It wasn't this year, was it? It was the year before. I think he looked quite good in that environment, but I don't know. Back to the UK Indies for Drilla Maloney and David Finlay. I think there was a time and a place where I could see him being a very WWE wrestler, but he didn't snap him up the last couple of times. As contracts were up, I can't see him being snapped up this time.
Bang Bang Gang written all over him, mate.
Oh, there we go. That's coming, isn't it? Well, speaking of which, Nick Gage is making a wrestling comeback, so I would tempt fate by drawing in your reaction. He looks well, though. He looks.
What do you mean comeback? When did he start wrestling?
He's been through a lot of time, Nick. He looks in good shape. He's got a bit of a six pack going. I don't think it's gonna give us any technical classics. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, great news. As long-time listeners will know, and be delighted to hear about the return of Nick Gage. You can reclaim your GCW badge by now.
Probably at this point. I don't even know where I'm thinking about that. Where's my GCW t-shirt? I'll have to dig it out at some point. Maybe I'll go to the big GCW show next year. But there you go. That's the only other big news story here floating in the ether. That's all. Outside of that, there is t-shirt related drama. I don't know if you've seen this. CM Punk getting grief from Kevin Nash for wrestling on a t-shirt on Raw, to which Kevin Owens seems to have taken some great joy tweeting about as well. That beef will never die. That time that CM Punk had to go at Steen and Generico back in the day in ROH in the mid 2000s for Steen wrestling in a t-shirt, calling his finisher the unsafe suplex. how the tables have turned at this point in 2025. I always think that's interesting. On a serious note, though, I always feel like anytime Kevin Nash is having a go at somebody, I feel like it's really Paul Levesque who's loading the bullets there. I feel like he was having a go at Nick Khan a few weeks ago. I mean, that tells me that maybe things aren't rosy, or maybe Nash knows something there the rest of us don't. But yeah, interesting. Maybe Nash has just never let go of that terrible promo exchange that him and Punk had in, what was it, 2011, during that whole period. LOL, I thought he was dead. The whole text message exchange. Yeah, you can't let it go, unfortunately. But yeah, there we go.
It's like back in the day, isn't it, where you used to get Cabana's thoughts that you knew were Punk's thoughts when Cabana was saying shit. Kevin Nash saying stuff very much, like you say, very much Paul's thoughts here that he can direct through a different channel. And if the CM Punk that we all know and love, or all know and loved, was still operating the way he was, he'd be turning up on Raw this week, wouldn't he? In a big singlet with like Phil written across the front of it or something like that. But just covering up his upper body, as old Kev was very wont to do, wasn't he, for the majority of his career there? So, but he went.
There was the odd time, wasn't there, when you knew he was feeling himself and he was in good shape and he was hitting that big jackknife and the straps had come down. Yeah, it was rare in the career that was taken up. But yeah, maybe Punk can do that next week on Raw. But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as all of the news goes, Gareth. Unless there's anything else you want a hot take on to mention before we go, or if not, any plugs you want to mention before we roll out of here.
Oh, I mean, definitely no more hot takes, because, as you know, I've only been watching AEW and not been reading anything on the internet. So I don't know if any. This is where I come to find out news, is talking to you. Like it's almost like a different version of back in the day when it used to be like, right, let's just visit Benno's Twitter feed and just find out what's been going on in the wrestling world. Who's he been arguing with? Who's he been coming? What are the major stories that I need to be interested in? But
just so you know, John Cena retired. Don't know if you've seen that, but that did happen the last month. Yeah.
For now. He'll be back in Saudi at some point, taking that money, because obviously it's very polite and the right thing to do, isn't it, to go out and apologise to the Saudi people and things like that. So if they come calling, I'm sure he'll be back going back on his words, as he loves to see people do. But from a plugs point of view, I don't know. We mentioned it on the show the other night, on the Matty Edwards Christmas pre-show, about the upcoming crossover that we've got, mate, going on, mate, with Bretro. Maybe that's probably the big plug, maybe.
The biggest crossover of the winter, yeah. As we have obviously me and Michael in our in your house walk towards the Attitude Era. We are coming up to Canadian Stampede, and yeah, as we did talk about in the pre-show, it just made sense. We want to do like this. So we feel like cousin shows at this point, Brett Show and Benno and Hamflet. Makes sense to have you guys on. Yeah, it's going to be me instead of us doing a Canadian Stampede review coming up. It's going to be me and Hamflet versus you and Matty, and Brett versus Sean. That's probably going to go Broadway. I'm expecting, but it'll be a Brett at Broadway than we saw at WrestleMania 12. So there you go. You got at least got that as a hook. But oh no, Freudian slip. Devastated. Hopefully Michael will be on my side. He might do the whole turn though. He might go full Brett. He might be the Benno and Hamflet screw job might be coming up in January, because I think he's if he's honest, he's got more of a soft spot for Brett than he has Sean. But I'll do my best to fight Sean's corner. But yes, obviously that'll be coming out in January, and I can't wait for it. In all seriousness, I think it's a show that's been in the making for a while and made up with. We're going to make it reality.
Oh, what did Michael say to me? He says that he said Brett's is Julie at home, Sean's is women on the road.
Sums it up. It really does.
But yeah, can we coexist? That'll be interesting to find out. But Shawn Michaels isn't even on the show, is he? So we can't talk about him.
Oh, I'm sure you'll find a way. I've noticed you and Matty doing your homework, working your ways through the Benno pamphlets. I know you'll have a notebook full of things Michael said, not me, that might have disrespected the great Bret Hart. But yeah, looking forward to getting us all in the same room for that coming up. And obviously, yeah, if you want all four of us on audio, a bit of a preview of that on the Matty Edwards Christmas pre-show extravaganza, however you want to word it, from this weekend, is up for free on the Patreon for people to check out, as well as for YouTube members, from the low price of 99 pence. And yeah, of course, we'll have the Grappies and Crappies coming up, probably the first or second Patreon so of January for the Crappy side, and obviously we're putting the Grappies out for everybody as well. And yeah, outside of that, Eddie's King of the Mountain show coming up this weekend. That's to look forward to. And then yeah, we'll have hopefully, based on his comments in the chat, Pratt much brighter King of the Mountain show coming up in January, as well as some other fun stuff we'll reveal when we get there. But yeah, outside of that, have I missed anything?
Don't think so. I think that covers it all.
There you go. Like I say, maybe most likely no weekend show this week unless there's a big turnaround in the scheduling. But it is a bank holiday. It is January the 1st, so it's one of those. But either way, we'll see if we can get something in your feed. If not, it'll be Saturday for Eddie's show. So yeah, we'll look forward or dread that if you're me or young Matthew. But that's coming up as well this weekend. But yeah, outside of that, thank you as always to our patrons for tuning in live with us tonight, as well as our YouTube members. Like I say, become a member at patreon.com/YouTube/grapple or youtube.com/@grapple. I'm usually recording at 5 a.m, Gareth, so it's thrown me off recording at a reasonable time here tonight. But you can get it there. Just search Grapple. You'll find it. But as always, like I say, thank you to our patrons. Thank you to our YouTube members. Thank you to our kings and queens of the mountain, Conor Laughlin, Eddie Sideburns, Chris Platt, Carl Gack, Sophia Hitchcock, Sam Mulvaney, and Marty Ellis. We will catch you all again on the next one. Happy New Year.
See ya. Have a good one. Happy New Year.
See you all.